Hey everyone, you're listening to the official podcast of 4playernetwork.com. Check us out at that address for everything you need to know about our community, monthly giveaways, and nightly live streams. You can even support us on Patreon at patreon.com/4player. And last but not least, you can catch the live recordings of these podcasts every single Thursday night on our Twitch channel. We hope to see you there. Enjoy. Welcome to the show, everybody. This is 4Player Podcast episode 719. It is May 11th, 2022. My name is Nick Henderson, and I am joined by Brad Simons.
Hello.
Nolan Hedstrom.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
Krispy.
Hello.
And Christopher Davis.
Good evening.
We have so much to talk about tonight, but first, I want to send a shout out real quick. I don't do this very often. I don't usually start the show by giving a shout out to all the people watching us live on Twitch, because we do record these things live. I feel like I should maybe mention that more. We record these live every Wednesday night. Notice I said Wednesday because we typically do Thursday. So if you are a person who catches this show for the next 2 to 3 months, we are recording this bitch on Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. You can tune in. You can watch us. You can watch us live, just like Blob Lee or Bog Noise or
any of the other 347 people in our chat tonight.
Of course. Exactly. Good. Yeah. What Nolan said. But anyways, yeah. Twitch.tv/4player podcast every Wednesday night. But yeah, welcome to the show. How's everybody doing tonight? Everybody good? Got some energy? Everyone watched that? No. Anybody here seen that Doctor Strange?
I watched Doctor Strange. It was pretty cool.
You said you were worried about it going into it.
I was, and honestly, it did not do as much of the things that I thought it was going to do. So that was good.
That's good. Oh yeah, that's right. Okay.
It was fun.
I think.
I don't know.
I think I prefer the first one.
I could see that. I think
it's mostly pacing, though.
I think the first one feels more like a. It feels like a complete like beginning, middle, end narrative, and Marvel just kind of doesn't make those anymore. Like they're just doing like the next installment in the big thing, you know?
It's gotten too big for its britches, if you will.
It's an episode.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. But I thought Multiverse of Madness was pretty cool. It did some things that were really fun. It had some of that. It had some of that Sam Raimi stank on it, you know?
Yeah, it definitely did. There was one sequence in particular in that movie that I was like, that was really cool, and Robin was like, I hated that, and I was like, ooh, this is divisive.
This is controversial. This is art.
It had to do with the piano.
Oh, she wasn't into it. Didn't like it.
Into that at all. Could not stand it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like because she thought it was stupid or what?
Yeah. And I was like,
oh no,
that was quite creative.
No,
that was really good.
That's the kind of dumb bullshit you want from a comic book about a wizard man. Like what? Come on, Robin.
Yeah. But overall, I think she enjoyed the movie more than I did. But you know.
Sure.
That particular thing was just kind of a bridge too far, if they will. It definitely had some of that Sam Raimi. I like that you call it Sam Raimi stank.
Yeah. It had his mustiness on it. It was there.
Yeah,
it was
for
fun.
sure. What about everybody else? Did anybody else watch anything worth mentioning? No.
I have bought tickets to go see Everything Everywhere All at Once this weekend.
Oh, that's so good.
I got my ticket. I got my singular ticket to go see Top Gun.
You're going by yourself to see Top Gun?
I'm gonna go treat my. I'm gonna go.
Are you a big Top Gun guy, or is this one getting good reviews? I don't really know.
He's a big Tom Cruise guy.
I'm a big Tom Cruise and Christopher McQuarrie pairing guy.
He's just ready for that volleyball scene.
when those two get together, magic happens. So I'm pretty hyped
I love
for it.
Top Gun, but mostly because I was a big Anthony Edwards guy, and well, he's not in the sequel.
Yeah.
Is Christopher McQuarrie?
Isn't it really
the
stupid?
Mission
Because I've seen the
Impossible guy?
trailer. Isn't it really stupid that they wanted his son to have his same stupid mustache?
I didn't know that.
I'm gonna be honest, Brad. I'm gonna watch Top Gun again before I go see this one. I haven't seen Top Gun in probably a decade or more. Actually, probably well over a decade. So I don't know what you're talking about. Chris Davis, what did you ask?
I asked, is Christopher McQuarrie one of the directors for Mission Impossible, or
He did Rogue Nation and Fallout.
Oh, okay.
So he's on
doing
the,
and he's doing part 7 and 8 or
he's on
7.
Nick's good boy list forever.
So Brad,
I love those movies.
I'm not familiar with the new one. I think I might have seen the trailer, but are you implying that Anthony Edwards' character is not in it, but his son is?
His son is, and he's got the same stupid mustache, and
is
he's all
his
mad
son-
at Tom
is his
Cruise.
son
You
gonna
got
be
my father
Gosling?
killed.
His son is Miles Teller.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh yeah,
Of
yeah,
course
yeah.
it's
Is his call sign Gosling?
No, I don't know.
I don't know.
No, it's something real dumb. Like they show it in the trailer. It's something bad.
That would make sense. Or they could
I
call
don't
him Egg,
remember what
I
it is.
guess.
Duck?
No, it has nothing.
Who are
it's
they,
like it's like some kind of millennial reference. Like I don't remember what it is.
Who are they fighting in the movie?
I don't know, dude. And that's what I
No,
don't care.
who were
Is
they
it-
fighting in the first movie? Like there's like a MIG
they were-
scene in the very beginning and a MIG scene at the very end, and the rest of the time it's just them dicking around.
Pretty sure they were Russian.
The antagonist of that movie is Tom Cruise.
Yeah, Maverick.
He's the one that gets somebody killed. Like,
Oh man. But hey, early word about this movie is that it's pretty damn good. So I'm hoping
Really?
that stays.
What
pretty
does
level.
early
Yeah.
word mean?
I
As-
will,
as in the
yeah.
people who have seen the screenings and also
No.
the people who
Oh, you can't
No.
ever trust the screen.
Well, I-
people.
dude, that's why I'm saying this with a grain of salt because I hope it stays steady. But like, and at the CinemaCon screening they did, which is not just full of press, it's full of people who. It's kind of like E3. They screened the whole movie there. Everybody who saw it there has been fucking raving about it. So I
This
don't know.
movie
I'm pretty.
was
I'm pretty
delayed
hyped
nearly
for it.
2 years. I honestly cannot believe it never leaked.
That's fair. But yeah, that's. And I'm gonna go see The Northman alone.
I would say go see that soon, because that's probably going to get pulled as soon as Top Gun
Oh, I know.
pops out.
No, I got a ticket. I got a ticket to go see it next like Monday night or something. I'll be the only one in the theater, which is how I like it, to be totally honest.
Glegor.
Yeah.
Oh, never mind. In chat, he said his name is Rooster. He's not lying.
Yeah.
He's
Is
not
his name
lying.
really Rooster?
Oh, his
He's
name
full of
is
calls
his
out
name
as
is
Rooster.
Bradley Rooster Bradshaw. Bradley Bradshaw,
What the fuck?
call sign Rooster. I cannot see this movie on principle. Like
What the fuck?
Miles Teller's mustached face is going to be the
Oh.
last thing I see before an aneurysm that kills
Oh my god!
me. Like,
Wait a second! Crispy. Is Miles Teller the guy that you went to high
he's the
school
guy I went to
with?
high school with. Yeah, that is like the hugest douchebag in the fucking world. Like, yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
that's so bad. I'm
on
sorry.
principle. I can't do it. I don't watch Miles Teller movies. I'm sorry. I bet Whiplash is great, but I haven't seen it, and I won't.
You know,
Hey, that's a lie. Y'all watch Fantastic Four.
Oh, we did watch that, but we talked through the whole fucking thing. That's the only Miles Teller movie I've ever seen,
Wow.
and I would like to keep it that way.
Anyways, welcome to the show, everybody. So much to talk about. Before we get into the video games, I want to quickly talk about, well, I guess video games. Brad, I don't mean to put you in the spot. I don't mean to put you in the spot here. Don't think you have to give me an actual answer here, but I just wanted to let everybody know, if you're watching, listening, whatever. The Revival Club with Carlos is coming to an end. We're finishing up The Darkness 2. I'm going to be recording a podcast with him hopefully next Tuesday. But Brad is going to be doing our next Revival Club poll, and he's been like,
I've been
I don't know.
wrestling with it a little bit.
been
I kind of
wrestling
want
with-
to.
What's your approach to this? I just want to know.
I kind of. So the most complete thought in my head is doing some games that it's games that I was super surprised that I haven't played. Like games I had no reason not to play. Like and that sort of led to like underplayed sequels, you know? Like I say the centerpiece in my head for this is Beautiful Joe 2 because I love Beautiful Joe. I love the games that Clover made, but why did I not play Beautiful Joe 2, or why did I play very little of it? It's a game I've owned, more or less since release. So why haven't I not played that? It reviewed well.
To find out you haven't played it. Yeah.
I love the first one.
Here's
Why?
a question I have for you, Brad.
Why did that happen?
If this poll comes out and it has Beautiful Joe 2 on it, and it
type game.
So here's my question: If the poll comes out and it has Beautiful Joe 2 on it and it wins, how fucked am I if I haven't played Beautiful Joe 1?
It doesn't matter. I mean,
Okay.
it's not a poll for people who never played. I mean, like, get fucked. Who cares? So the other one on there or I'm thinking about putting on there is even weirder because unlike Beautiful Joe, this is a very story-driven series, and that's the Legacy of Kain series. And I've never finished Legacy of Kain Defiance. And I really like Legacy.
You told me, is Legacy of... Wait a second.
Defiance is the last one. Defiance
For
is
some
the
reason,
last
I was
one
thinking Defiance
where
was
you
one of
play
the
as
Blood Omen games, but it's not.
No. Blood Omen 2 is not a thing. Just wipe that from your data bank. It's Legacy of Kain Defiance is the final Legacy of Kain game. It's the character action game, maybe even, where you play as Kain and Raziel, and it's sort of the last in that story.
And it's considered good.
It's considered pretty good.
Not saying that's like a prerequisite for the Revival Club. It's just I assume you're picking it because it's got at least some positive word of mouth.
Yeah. People like Legacy of Kain Defiance, because people like that story and it continued that story.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah. So
cool.
but here's the thing. And I know we need to move on. The thing is, a lot of these games that I'm sort of, debating are games that you can't really. We're gonna have to emulate them. They're not, but I mean, they're not games that are sold anywhere. I mean, you can't, buy them legally or anything. So we would have to emulate them. But these are emulators like PC, like PS2, GameCube emulators.
PCSX2.
So we'd have to be comfortable, with asking our community to be familiar. I guess that's sort of been the biggest concern. We kind of want to ask y'all, the community, how y'all feel about using emulators. It is something you have experience with, and I'm guessing if someone's listening to a video game podcast, they fucked around with an emulator or two in their day, but maybe not. So we're curious: is playing a game on an emulator like a big barrier for y'all? I guess just sort of let us know. Let me know in Discord. Let me know on Twitter, whatever. And
let us know in Discord, and we'll get that poll up here with it before the Darkness podcast records. We'll get that up so that we can kind of roll straight into that next game after we record that Darkness podcast.
Now, Brad, you've mentioned 2 of the games. We're probably gonna have 4 on the poll. Is
three.
there one that
three?
There's 3? Okay. Is there one that you're rooting for overall over the other 2?
Well, there's one
no, look, I don't want to bring it up because I don't want it to become memeified. I don't want people to pick it because they know somebody who would be playing it really hates that game. So, but it is one that is a blind spot for me. I never played through that game. I played very little of it, and I don't actually remember why.
I know what he's talking about, but we're not going to mention it here.
It cleans up real nice in an emulator, though. I saw some video today.
If you're curious about that and want to participate in the upcoming Revival Club, of course you can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/4Player, or you can just subscribe to us on Twitch, and you'll have access to the Revival Club channels in Discord at discord.gg/4Player.
I want to add.
Okay.
I knew very little about that game. For whatever reason, I knew very little about it. Who knows where I was? And I watched a video review. And it was the Greg Kasavin GameSpot video review from back in the day.
I know.
He gave it an 8.0. And I'm looking at this footage and like, oh, you also play as like a Spanish boxer. And I'm like, what? What is this game?
You're going to give it away now.
It looked like Miguel from Tekken. I'm like, this is Onimusha. This is crazy. But
you just fucking said it now. You just fucking said it. He's thinking about putting Onimusha 4 Dawn of Dreams on this poll. It sounds like he's already
game. That's not a real video game. I refuse to.
Well, I need a 4th game.
No, it's 3. The polls are 3.
We only do 3.
We had 4 for mine.
No, we didn't.
We had 4 for
three.
Carlos. You're fucking the method up there, Nick.
We had 3. We've done
had
4.
But we used to have 4 all the time.
I'm not going to argue with you. You know how I know it's 3 is because I've designed the website to have 3 sections, 3 games, and I've done this 3 times, or this will be the 3rd time I've done it. So,
Oh, so this is a new
anyways,
website thing. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, but that one is still up in the air. I might not put that one on. So.
All right. Well, we'll get that finalized list out to you guys if you want to vote. If you're, like I said, if you're interested in participating, you can subscribe or support us on Patreon. We really appreciate it. Helps us keep the light on and keep hosting costs covered for the show and everything like that. All right, let's get into it. We've got video games to talk about. Let's start with a game that I know Brad and Nolan have been playing, I believe.
I don't
Y'all
think
both
Nolan's been playing it because if he's been playing it, I wouldn't have been able to have been playing it.
Oh.
I don't think.
Oh,
because I'm playing his copy. Yeah.
You're welcome. No, I have been playing it.
Oh.
I mean, I'm only like 4 hours in. I mean, we're probably just playing at different times.
Okay.
Well, let's talk about Rogue Legacy 2. I think that's the
Wait.
What?
Are you kidding me? I played more than both of these guys.
Really?
Yes.
See,
I played like 20 hours.
Krispy. I just want to point out, Krispy, that you don't update the doc, so I have no way of knowing this shit.
That's true.
I
I just
have no
expect
way
you
of
to
knowing
intuit this kind of stuff about me.
God
Like,
damn it.
Nick,
All right.
you know I am crazy about Rogue Legacy 2. And
All
if
right.
you don't know, then why are we even friends, Nick?
Oh. Damn. Shots fired. All right, Krispy, tell us how much you love Rogue Legacy 2.
Rogue Legacy 2 is pretty cool. It's kind of like the first one, but it's also new and pretty cool. Brad, what do you think?
According to Steam,
That's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. It is very familiar if you've played Rogue Legacy. Honestly, when I first started playing it, it was so much like Rogue Legacy, and that first area is so much like Rogue Legacy that I was kind of like, do I want to play Rogue Legacy? Do I like Rogue Legacy? This seems okay.
Pretty sure you
but this
did.
is
It's really funny when
overly
you're
familiar.
It's really funny when you're experiencing that, like in the beta too, where they're like, "Hey, we've got the first area of the castle ready for you to play. We've got 5 classes." Like they're making it this whole thing. Like we're gonna bring this out incrementally. We've got a bunch of content we're gonna add, and you're playing what is just a smaller version of Rogue Legacy. And you're
So
like,
yeah,
"This is
so
really fucking weird."
To answer your question, Crispy, as to why I've not played as much as I have, it is because that reason. It's because I played a bunch of it in beta, and I was like, "Holy shit, this is just kind of more Rogue Legacy with a slightly better look."
But I was about to ask, does it have a new art style? Because I don't remember the game.
Oh, it does. It does.
Yeah,
It's crisp and cartoony.
Yeah,
I like
they
the look
touched
a
it
lot.
up.
Yeah,
It looks
the first one is kind of like rudimentary. This is definitely that taken to like a full like artist. I mean, like it looks nice. It looks good. This is no, but I want to say, Nolan, and I don't think that it's just the first few hours of this game were a bit of a struggle for me, and it's not just because it's very familiar. Not just because it's a lot like the first Rogue Legacy, but and I remember this, it's because the first few hours of also the first Rogue Legacy are kind of rough because it's very brutal and you feel like you're getting your upgrades very slowly and you're just sort of like throwing yourself at the Rogue Legacy wall. And it's the most unpleasant like part of playing a Rogue Legacy game.
I don't
and
want
that
to say
happened
it's
again in this one.
But I do remember having, a while back, I either revisited Rogue Legacy, the OG one, at like a new game, or something like that, or also playing with this one. But I do remember that it's one of those things where it's exponential to an extent. It's definitely almost maybe less exponential, more logarithmic. But it's one of those things that, like, yes, at the very beginning, you're constantly getting your ass handed to you. You're not going to beat the boss on your first try, I guess, unless you're try or some shit. But it's one of those things where you have to play it over and over and level and level and level and unlock new stuff. And that's mainly just because you're building out the castle or your homestead or whatever. And unlocking, more health and more defense and more, I can carry more weight. So now I can have 2 things equipped and stuff like that. And that's what kind of, gets you to be able to beat that first boss. But then you kind of start again. But the curve definitely gets a little bit less steep the farther you get.
And it's the core like abilities the air dash. You have to like
Mhm.
unlock that air dash, and it feels really kind of clunky before you get that. And then you have that pogo move, right? But
I
you
had that same
eventually
feeling
get the
about Hollow Knight
ability.
though.
Yeah,
Like until you get the double jump, I was like, this game feels bad, and then I got that, and it like
true.
changed my entire
I mean,
outlook on the
I think
game.
that's a lot of Metroidvanias, honestly. Um, it, I think it's once you get the ability to, because the pogo has always been like a big part of Rogue Legacy, is platforming and combat, and you eventually you don't just get the air dash, but you get the ability to have the pogo move reset your air dash, so you
Yep.
can kind of keep yourself up in the air,
The Echo
and then
something.
yeah, I forget what it's called, but
It's like Echo Dash or Echo Jump or something like that. Yeah.
once you start getting some of these core abilities, it starts feeling a lot better just to kind of move around. Then you start unlocking some new classes, and once you start getting to some of the crazier classes, you just it's sort of a turning point. Like, and I remember this happening in the first game where it goes from kind of feeling like a chore and a grind to all of a sudden becoming like super addictive. One more run, like, oh, that class is available, let's get back in there, and just getting a little bit further, getting a little bit more gold, and starting to get a lot of those upgrades. And a lot of it might come from those upgrades, and them kind of making you feel just a little bit stronger, a little bit healthier, and like of all this is sort of the first Rogue Legacy is, I think, where people coined the term rogue light, and where most roguelikes are, you lose and you're kind of starting all over from zero. But this is a very progression heavy game, more so than even most roguelites you see today, where you're getting stronger every run. So like that's why you're making progress, not because you have knowledge of the world, not because you're getting better at air dashing and dodging, but because your characters are just getting a lot stronger. And some people don't like that, and it is something that's still very, I think,
Why would people
very
not like that? That sounds
decidedly
great.
Rogue Legacy. Well, it's the thing where a lot of people who play Rogue Legacy want it to just be skill and knowledge. They don't want it to feel like there are systems that are making you better, underneath, the hood as well. Does that make
That's
sense? Like,
certainly and yeah, no, it does.
but there's a lot of cool stuff on that skill tree. A lot of familiar stuff. But it feels like a game that has been in early access for 3 years or whatever,
Oh
right?
yeah, for
Like
sure.
you can. I feel like with every new system they introduce, like, oh, this was probably in like some big like patch or some big expansion drop during early access. This just feels like the kind of thing you add once you're trying to come up with new ideas for content of a game. And I think a game really benefits from like being in early access that long, like Hades, right? When Hades came out, there was just so much to do, and like you're like, oh, I can't do that right now, but I can do this, and I can go to this shop and I can get this material, and there's always something to do. And I think that's what makes it so addictive. And if it was um if you did kind of play it from the start of early access, I could see it. I don't know. It's weird. Some people like that early access experience because they like how a game evolves as you play it. But
And
Rogue
feeling like you're
Legacy,
involved in that improvement
yeah,
over
sort
time.
of.
Yeah.
But Rogue Legacy seems like a game that is benefiting from the get go of having like all of these systems. And there is a lot of new systems in this that I don't think we're in the first Rogue Legacy. One of the things I've come to realize is that I don't remember like the finer details of that first game as much as I thought I would. So there are things that are like, oh, this is a really cool idea, but I actually don't remember if this was in the first game or not.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like I don't think like relics are, which is the thing that's become very standard in roguelikes. But this one is kind of an older one, and it didn't have these relics that you don't really know what they do, but you just kind of you use them to figure out what they do, and they could like
Well,
dramatically
I think
change your run.
that's like a
Um,
big deal with, I mean, they definitely started that, not necessarily with relics, but they definitely started that in Rogue Legacy, where essentially like characters or maybe traits and stuff like that. There was the whole mystery of, oh, you've never used this trait before, so you have no idea what it does. So if you do want to figure it out, you have to take it at least once, to figure
yeah,
that out. And that's how you get to a run where the entire world is upside down, or you're in black and white, or whatever. And but
with
this
the
one takes it
traits,
up a
yeah.
level, yeah, with the traits. Where this one still has those traits, but then now you have relics where you in the world you have the choice to take them. You don't have to, because there is actually a negative consequence to taking them, because you lose What
Resolve.
is that? Resolve. Thank you.
Resolve.
And if your resolve goes below a certain amount, you start losing your max health. And so
Mhm.
there is a consequence to taking them, especially if you don't know what they do. But that's kind of how the game gets you to. I like that concept because it's one of those
Mhm.
things where, hey, I don't know if I'm going to enjoy using this thing. The game doesn't necessarily force me, but it kind of strong arms me. It's like, hey, you know what? Just try it out and see if you like it. And I think that really helps you to kind of get used to playing outside your comfort zone. This is one of those things where often I even find myself doing it too. I am so familiar with this class. I don't ever want to use this class.
Mhm.
I don't like it. But you know what? When you start getting some relics that maybe pair well with that class, all of a sudden it can change how it goes. And so
Mhm.
it's one of those things where the game kind of like nudges you into being out of your comfort zone so that you can potentially get more out of the game. I
And,
like
That
and
that
stuff is
concept.
so that kind of
w-
stuff is so important these days, especially with like the popularity of like Souls games and whatnot. Like, I get so ingrained in like, well, I'm a sword and shield kind of fella, and it's just like, but then like Elden Ring is dropping all kinds of things that tempt me towards using magic and stuff like that. And it's like, if I had never let myself kind of get out of that comfort zone, I never would have discovered how much I enjoy using certain weapons and that kind of shit. So
For
that
sure.
stuff's important. Also,
well,
it
well,
allows you to get to the end of the game and feel like I've experienced more than just like this tiny sliver of the
it,
content that makes up the
and
game.
they give you little tastes too, where sometimes like you're always going to pick when you have a choice between three classes, you might always pick the one that you know you're better at because you're trying to get a little further in the game or get a bunch of gold. But like they have these rooms sometimes where you can just switch out your weapon. So like you can try a weapon from another class or even classes you haven't unlocked yet, which is cool. And just it can change your build like kind of significantly, but you can kind of mess around with this other class's weapons in a completely different build, which can be unique. There's one class that's called a pacifist, which gives you a 250% gold bonus
Chris
to any
Davis's
gold
ears just perked up.
to any gold that you pick up, right? But he has a peace sign and he can't actually hurt anything with it. So you're basically just doing a dodge run where you're busting crates trying to get as much gold as you can. But if you find one of those rooms that lets you swap your weapon, you can pick up like like the barbarian's axe with the pacifist, and all of a sudden you're killing dudes now and still getting that 250 gold bonus.
That's cool.
So yeah, it's cool little ideas like that. And there's one other thing I want to call out, which I think is really cool, and I don't remember if it was from the first one, is that every class has like a method to do critical damage, and they kind of
I
mix
don't
up.
think that was in the first one.
They
I don't
mix
think so.
up
You definitely
the
had
way
critical
you
hits,
trigger
but I
it.
don't think it was. I don't think it was so much that. I think just every attack there was X% that it would be critical, but I don't think it was like how it is in
And
this
some
game where they
classes were
kind of
better
changed it
at
up
crits
based
than
on the
others.
class. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Like the
now they
assassin or
have
whatever had a higher chance of getting a crit than someone else or whatever, but
yeah.
it wasn't kind of based on their attacking and different chances how you attack and stuff like that. Yeah.
It's based on their class type where like the barbarian, he will crit every time he's attacking from the ground because it's a very slow like chop, and you got to be
Mhm.
like in the face of the enemy, not jumping, where you're in the air a lot in Rogue Legacy, but if you land it, it's a critical damage. Or then they have a class like the Ronin, which is like a samurai class who has a very long range sword that's slow, and it's got huge range like a katana. He's pulling out his katana and swiping it, and it's like Marth from Smash Brothers, where if he hits on the very tip, it
Oh,
does
yep.
like critical damage, right? So you
Just the
always want to
tip.
be like just far enough away to hit at the very end of your katana, and you'll do critical damage like every time. And
Versus
I
like
got one upgrade,
the
the Icarus
boxer
wings
or
that let
whatever.
me,
Mhm.
or yeah, the boxer, which he builds
So the
his
boxer,
combo.
when you
Oh,
punch, you don't do a whole lot of damage, but the more punches you get in, then when you use your ability, it's insane damage. How much? So it's really good on enemies with higher health because you're doing a bunch of jabs and then you do like an uppercut, and so it's one of those things where
you get to
if you
build to
get
the uppercut.
yeah, you don't have to. You can technically do it whenever you want, but if they have more hits on them, your uppercut does more damage. It's like a multiplier, but it's a guaranteed like crit. But the amount crit is based on like how many punches you get in on them first.
The
But
the
once again, similar to the Brad, like Brad was saying with this, the Ronin with the katana, you want to be far away. With this, you do want to be up close because you have your punches obviously don't go as far. Yeah.
and the boxer's the only class in the game that doesn't have a hitbox like
Yeah.
it doesn't get hurt from touching enemies, so he can like run and dodge through enemies while he's like boxing them without getting hurt. Every other uh, class in the game, Rogue Legacy just has the if you touch it, you'll take damage, kind of like an old school Castlevania. But most roguelikes aren't like that at all. Like you can walk through enemies. It's just their attacks that do damage to you. It's the kind of thing that is so Rogue Legacy that like it feels a little weird at first, but you're like, oh no, this is what makes this feel so much like Rogue Legacy, because Rogue Legacy is like really the only one doing this anymore. Same with like your air dash. In every other game, your dash is like, iframes, invincibility, like to dodge attacks. But here, it's just a fast way to like get around. But if you dodge into like a fireball, you're gonna take damage. So you really got to think about the action in this game different. And once you get used to it and comfortable with it, you really start moving. And that's when I think Rogue Legacy, gets a lot of fun. And yeah, I was a little down on it at first, but now I'm like super addicted and hooked. And I always just want to kind of get back into there.
I think I'm a different person than I was when Rogue Legacy 1 came out, and that combined with I'm really digging kind of just the clean aesthetic of this altogether.
They definitely,
like,
I will say,
rad.
not saying the old one looks bad, but they definitely,
Right.
like Brad said, there's more of an artistic feel to this. It definitely feels like it's crisper. It has like nicer, like I don't want to say more cartoony, but I almost want to say the other one, it was more like very straight lines and very rigid, whereas this one's kind of almost more like rounded. It's smoother, and that definitely translates into it. So it's one of those things where if you put them side by side, you can definitely tell there's a pretty big difference.
I
think it's an improvement.
It feels like they kind of went with the artist that they had at the time, but this time they hired and again, I don't mean to be offensive or off base, but it feels like this time they hired a really good artist to do the art style from the first game. So it's like the Rogue Legacy 1 art style, but like really clean and polished. And
or maybe that person just got better.
Yeah, maybe they just got better.
That's true. Dude, when did Rogue Legacy come out? Like 2012?
Yeah, basically.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, it's old.
My person's listening to the show right now, like, motherfucker, I was in college when I did this.
But I mean, even then, Rogue Legacy looked a little iffy back then.
Sure.
I have an
it's
important
good.
question.
I like it.
What's up,
How's the music?
Oh, it's
good. The music is good. Yeah,
it's fantastic.
It's good. Like
Yeah,
I really like I really like the first Rogue Legacy soundtrack. I don't know if it's the same.
I haven't.
The Shell in the Pit.
Shell in the Pit. I mean, they're the ones who did like fucking Wander Song and stuff.
They're
great.
Haven't found the new Pistol Shrimp though. Like, there's no standout
Shrimp
banger.
Was so good. Yeah,
I haven't.
I'm sorry, is Pistol Shrimp a song?
It's one of the tracks from the first game soundtrack.
Pistol Shrimp.
It's the one. It was used in like a few of their trailers, like their PlayStation trailer.
There are really good remixes of some of the first game's music. It's just like, and when you're in this first area, you're like, oh, I remember this song, but this sounds so much like there's so much more going on now. It's great. So yeah, I'm enjoying it a lot.
Cool. Are you playing any of this on your Steam Deck, Brad?
Oh yeah, this is a great Steam Deck game. A lot of my Steam Deck games really drain the battery. A lot of my Steam Deck games really drain the battery, but this one doesn't for whatever reason. So that's good.
Cool. All right. Let's talk about Trek to Yomi.
Okay.
I played through that this week. I know Krispy started it.
Like you're done?
Yeah. I finished it. I actually finished it today during my lunch break. Thanks to Steam Deck. It's doing wonders for my tackling some PC games.
Must be nice.
Yeah, it is pretty nice. I'm really digging that aspect of it. But yeah, I actually went back and forth between Steam Deck and PC, so I got a good feel for kind of like how this game runs between both platforms, whatever. But yeah, this is that Devolver Digital Wild Flying Hog, I think is the studio behind it. Perhaps, maybe. Correct me if I'm wrong. And it's been popping up in a lot of these like indie showcases and whatnot for quite a while, and it's made a name for itself based. I mean, a lot of the initial impressions and the interest garnered around it is because of its aesthetic, which is obviously going for like classic like Kurosawa film aesthetics, right? As far as its like cinematography goes, but
the
it's kind of yeah, with lighting, it's black and white. It's got really dramatic lighting. It does some really cool stuff with camera angles and like playing with the foreground and the background and that kind of thing. And so it's getting obviously a lot of attention because of the way it looks.
What is it? Because that's all I know is the way it looks.
Yeah, I don't blame you. That's kind of obviously I think what they've been leaning heavily on for marketing purposes. But what this game is I mean,
this was a side-scrolling game.
It is a side-scrolling game. So it switches back and forth between being when you're in combat in this game. It is you are locked into a 2D plane. So, but you are moving from screen to screen. So think of it like a it's almost like a fixed camera angle, kind of like Resident Evil, right? So you're running through an environment, and when you're not in combat, you can kind of freely explore, but the camera is locked in place to kind of create that really cinematic effect that they're going for. So you're, so a lot of times when you enter a screen, you'll kind of be off in the distance, or you'll be really close up and you're moving away from the camera and that kind of thing. And a lot of times you'll see like things obscuring kind of the camera in the foreground and things that are like blurred out when they're really close, really far away. So they're doing a lot of really cool stuff with perspective. And in between combat sequences, you are kind of running. You're looking for like kind of hidden side areas to like find in things that upgrade your stamina, things that upgrade your health and give you ammo for one of your 3 different melee weapons, which is like you have a kunai, you have a bow and arrow, and you eventually unlock like a rifle. But you play as a samurai, and this is very much like it does feel very, and honestly, Krispy can probably comment on this more than I could because I haven't seen a ton of Kurosawa films, but it definitely seems like it's trying to tell the kind of story that you would commonly see in one of those films. So kind of at the beginning. What's up?
So it's like Limbo? What kind of game is this?
I mean, it's a side-scrolling action game, but it's also it's heavily story focused. So
okay,
there are lots of the story is progressing in a linear fashion. You are exploring these 3D environments. Like they're pretty small and they're pretty and when I say, go ahead. What are you getting at, Brad?
I mean, it seems like you're just sort of holding the stick in one direction and then you're getting into combat encounters.
You are. But those sequences in between combat can sometimes be pretty lengthy, and there are lots of, because the camera is locked, a lot of the exploration, quote unquote, is dependent on you looking for hidden pathways that are kind of obscured because of the camera angle, or so you're kind of wanting to pay attention to things that look like you might be able to go behind them, which will lead you to another area, which might have additional enemies, might have a health upgrade or a stamina upgrade. At its core, though, mechanically speaking, this is a 2D action combat game where you play as a samurai. So when you're engaged in combat, you unsheath your katana and you fight enemies, and then when you've killed all the enemies, you resheath your katana and you proceed to the next kind of like camera change. And when the camera changes, you're no longer locked into that 2D plane, so you can kind of move around in the 3D environment to fully explore it and whatnot. But yeah, at its core, go ahead.
What was that one game where you fought like waves of enemies and it was mostly just about positioning which way you were facing, left or right? Because they would come at you from both sides of the screen.
Wait, you're talking about one what is it called?
One finger
death punch.
Death punch?
Yeah.
One finger death punch?
Or Kung Fury.
I mean, that's kind of how the combat plays out, because the idea of positioning is like
very
not
important.
Positioning, but facing, because like enemies can come at you from behind and they'll just get to take free shots on you all day until you actually turn around. So then they'll like throw enemies at you from both directions.
It's kind of deceptive because when you first boot it up or you first start kind of like getting into the actual, like you get through the initial like prologue stuff and you're in the game, like you go into the menu and there's like what looks like a skill tree, So my first assumption was, oh, this is like an actual, like, I'm gonna be getting points that I'm like putting into stuff, but it's really not that. Like, as you progress the game, it puts you into different scenarios, and in those scenarios, it's like, okay, now we're gonna teach you a new mechanic, and it's a new skill. So like a new combo, or a new way to change which direction you're facing, or a new way to evade or parry and stuff like that. So it's like you don't have any control over when you learn skills. It just kind of gives you these things, and then eventually you have everything, and it's kind of like, now use all that together to successfully get through these, like,
they don't
more
make
challenging
games like
things
this anymore. That's crazy.
It is a little strange, and I do want to point out. I really enjoyed this game, but I do want to point out that I think expectations for this are high for a couple reasons. One, its aesthetic is so appealing that I think a lot of people are going to be kind of bummed out when they kind of realize the combat is a bit more simple than, because I mean, it's a really intricate and complex visual style that they've gone with. Like, it looks
does the combat
gorgeous.
look good?
It does. I mean, it can't. Sometimes it can look kind of rough. Sometimes it can look a little stilted. Some of the animations are not as smooth. Also, coming off of something like Ghost of Tsushima, which is, I think, what a lot of people are gonna draw. I think this game, visually speaking, is appealing for a lot of the same ways, a lot of the same reasons that Ghost of Tsushima.
But Ghost of Tsushima was like, a game in color, and it had a black and white mode, but it wasn't doing the same things that the black and white look is doing in this. That was just sort of like a filter. This is definitely
going, like, they're doing so many cool things with camera placement and stuff in this game, and manipulating the camera to make this super cinematic.
Does this have that 2001 issue where they still stuck in the past in terms of like having, like, Devil May Cry 1, right? Where they had static camera angles, but they didn't want to do tank controls anymore. So you had that weird like scene change where you're holding one direction and now all of a sudden it's a completely different angle. So you just stop for a second and have to reorient your movement.
I think it's happened to me a few times, yeah.
Hang on, man. Like, I played about an hour of this, and like, I am pretty disappointed.
Yeah?
Yeah. It, like,
you're not going to Yomi?
I don't know, man. It's okay. So like, what Brad is saying is something that I've been trying to like wrap my head around since, right?
Right.
And that does kind of help, solidify it for me, in that there is this weird thing with this game where like there's a look they're going for, and they kind of go for it in specific moments and then like back out of it and then go back into it. And what I mean is, like, I think a lot of these staged fight scenes where the camera's much more static are a lot better than the stuff that's going on in between. As soon as that camera starts flying around and like following you when you're like running around between these different fight stages, it feels like a video game. Like, it feels like something that we would have gotten at any point in the last 15 years, And that's fine, but there's also not a lot going on in those areas. So I don't even understand why they're there. I almost feel like this is kind of like a reverse Cuphead thing, where it's like you have this game connecting these fights. Like, you have this like, world map kind of thing. Not world map, but, like stages connecting these fights. You're not really doing anything with it. It's kind of killing the illusion that you're going for. Why are they there? Why don't we just cut them out? Like, why isn't this just like a smaller game that's more focused on like these really cinematic fights? Because then maybe you could have gotten the combat controls under control. So because
here's the
combat kind of sucks too. Like,
here's the odd thing. I found myself, I honestly enjoy the moments between the combat way more than I enjoy the combat, I think, in this game.
Yeah, but they're not. I mean, they're fine, and if that's they're fine. I'm not saying that the game shouldn't exist the way it does. I'm just saying, if I was doing this, that is something I would have definitely brought up at some point, of being like, I don't think this conforms to like the pitch of the rest of the game. You know what I mean? Like, I think this kind of stuff right here, where you're running around this village, like, yeah, this camera work looks cool. You've got this really nice depth of field, which, you know, sometimes sometimes does, sometimes doesn't work out in a cinematic way. Like, sometimes it makes the whole thing feel a little more like, you know, you get this like kind of model look, you know.
It might not look like
But
a movie,
it looks
but
more like a game when you're doing that. And all I'm saying is I don't think those sections bring enough into it to, like, I really feel like half the game is just kind of like padding out these cinematic moments that the game is kind of more focused on. I don't know, man. Like, it's just weird. Like, it feels really superficial. Like, it feels really like a superficial homage. There's all these weird little things about it that's just like, you want someone to take a screenshot of this game and put it up on Twitter, and people be like, "Wow, that looks cool," you know. But
Please,
like,
a
it's
GIF,
not like
a
a great
GIF.
game. Yeah, but it's not like a really cool game or anything, you know. Like, and this is really stupid. I'm gonna bring it up, but it's really stupid, and nobody cares. I barely care, but I think it is a little more emblematic of what's going on. They have that character in the beginning of the game who is your like master, right?
Yeah.
And he like, so you're like a young noble from a noble family learning to be a samurai. You've got this like great samurai master who teaches you everything, and the samurai master is of course named Sanjuro, right? After Toshiro Mifune's character in yeah.
Seven Samurai? I don't know. I don't
No,
remember.
not Seven Samurai. In Yojimbo and
Jimbo.
Sanjuro. And that's okay, cool, like nice little homage, but like it doesn't make any sense for that character to be named Sandro, because in the movie we know that Sandro is like Japanese for 5-year-old barley field. He just like looks at a barley field and is like, "Yeah, you can call me Sandro," and they're like, "Okay." Like it's not like it's a very superficial reference, and I feel like this whole game is very superficial. You know.
I'm not going to dispute that it's superficial.
I mean, look. I mean, maybe it's not actual Kurosawa, and maybe it's not a great game either.
No,
Like,
but I'm
in
just
terms
saying,
of a gamey
I'm saying
sense,
do one
but,
or
like,
the other, because like they didn't do either very well. That's all I'm
Yeah,
saying.
well,
someone
That's
who
what I'm
doesn't,
saying.
so I
Like,
don't really have like the film background, I guess, to like, and this is probably a testament to it being superficial. Is that for on someone like me, the trick works. Like,
yeah,
like
I mean,
the camera angle stuff, like the cinematography, quote unquote, of this game kind of blew me away. I love the way this game looks, and I'm just not as big of a way.
yeah, and
Not
like,
as big a fan of the way it plays.
listen, I get that, and I don't think that's wrong or anything. The game does have a certain visual appeal. All I'm saying is that like I don't
there
think
might actually be something that
I think that is a moment where the video gaminess of it is poking through a little too much, and I kind of felt like that was something that maybe wasn't the original idea that they were going for. So I feel like it's an inconsistency, especially
Davis, the footage stopped.
it's especially since nothing's really
Why
happening.
did it stop?
You know what I mean? I don't know.
don't you look at that every now and then? It's been off for a while. Hey, but here's the thing. I think Nick might actually be reacting to something that isn't like specifically like Kurosawa and like the few movies or whatever that he's seen. There's something that the look of this game is doing that I think he's nostalgic for, and it's not that. It's actually like late, pre-rendered era, like think like Final Fantasy VIII and stuff, where it's a static scene and you start moving and then the scene starts moving with you. Like that is very specifically from that era, and it was a cool effect back then. And when I saw the screen kind of moving from static to like slight movement, which again doesn't happen in film or whatever, but it reminds me so much of that time in video games when that was like a real cool, exciting thing. And maybe that's what he's reacting to, because I think that is also a cool look, because I was raised to think that was a cool look.
I don't think it looks bad at all. I think, like I said, I think this game looks great. I just don't think it looks great by emulating what it's what it's, you know, putting out there as its influences. It looks great because it's just kind of doing video game stuff, and we like video
Sure.
games. You know what I mean? Like I kind of wish somebody who was going to do a project like this would say, we're going to lock down camera angles. Like, we're going to have a lot more static angles, a lot more like composed angles. And if we have to use tank controls to make that work in a gameplay way, like, that's what we'll do, you know?
It's almost like they couldn't. It's almost
But,
like they couldn't
like-
kind of like they couldn't get those two. Like they had the desire to do both. They had the desire to make like a video game, and they had a desire to pay homage.
Yeah, it's
to
a
these
bunch of people
films
who
that they
make
clearly
video.
love.
It's a bunch of people who make video games who wanted to make a movie. You know, like
Sure.
they don't make movies.
I will say this:
There's
the game,
100% more static scenes than there is in any other modern video game, because no one's doing that anymore. So at least they knew that, okay, these fight scenes do have to be on a static background, you know, with lots of wind or rain or whatever. I mean, they kind of get it, but then it was the turning
like-
that idea into a full game where maybe they lost the
I just think-
diehard Kurosawa fan.
I just think the thing that the game needed to nail those fight scenes, right? And it kind of looks good, but like the combat itself is also not fun.
Yeah.
I started playing, like, I heard everybody saying that, like, oh, the combat's not very deep, it's kind of not fun, and I was like, well, maybe if I start on hard difficulty, like, it'll be more engaging because the stakes will be higher, and that was just, like, a huge fucking failure, because the way they handle difficulty is atrocious, and even on, like, a normal difficulty, like, the visual, like, the sort of game information they give up for visual flair is too much for how unresponsive and like not snappy the combat is. You know what I mean?
That was one thing I definitely wanted to make sure I stressed here, is because the combat, this game has moments where some of the boss fights specifically, or these like set PC fights, they get away with it because it's visually appealing and it's interesting or whatever. But like the actual act of swinging the sword is kind of sluggish. It does feel like there's some input delay, and doing things like going from blocking to parrying to rolling and stuff like in combat, it seems just a little too slow to be doing it with any kind of precision, which is
it's
unfortunate.
really weird. Your
But,
tells are really muddy. It's
the tells are very muddy, but like I will say that having seen kind of the whole picture now, the story pulled me through, I think, and it's not anything crazy or elaborate or like, something that I haven't seen before, quote unquote.
Sure.
It's but it does the characters well. It does kind of the motivations well. And it does like some of the middle chapter stuff. Because Yomi is like the land of the dead, so if that kind of tells you anything about kind of where this game is going, like it does some interesting things. And then it leads to an inevitable conclusion that feels cinematic and satisfying in the way that I think it should. I do wish the combat was better, but I think this game does enough visually speaking.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, to kind of make up for some of those.
I
don't
kind of wish I could hear the voice acting and stuff.
To be clear, I don't think this game is like an abject failure or anything. I just feel like these are some significant flaws. I feel like there is a reason why this game is rated mixed on Steam right now. You know,
Drunken Merchant in chat has a good point, because and I can attest to this too. Like after about halfway through this game, after you've kind of learned all of the move sets, there's like 2 or 3 move sets that I latched onto that I think a lot of people probably did, that just kind of allow you to steamroll the rest of the game. At least the smaller enemies. They don't necessarily work super well on bosses, but like there's two or 3 different moves that will like every time will stun an enemy and allow you to do a finisher, which then gets you back some of your health. So as long as you're avoiding back attacks and stuff and keeping your distance from other enemies, you can basically just plow through waves of enemies towards as you're getting towards the end of the game, which honestly is maybe for the best, because like it leads to very few places where you get stuck, and you just can kind of take in the visuals and the story and that stuff, and that's what I think this game does pretty well. So
I think I definitely would like to finish this for the story, but I'm also definitely gonna put it on the easiest difficulty and just kind of try to bash through it.
I know Prince of the Universe in chat made a comment about Brad's probably not going to like it because it doesn't have English voice acting, but it actually does. Just FYI, there is an English dub. I haven't listened to it, but there is definitely an English dub and like several other languages too, I believe. I was by default, obviously it's in Japanese, and that is definitely going to give you the most authentic vibe, I think, if you're going for it. But you can definitely play it in English if you want. All right. There's another game that's it's not. I was about to say it's kind of in the same vein as this, but also not really. Chris Davis is the first one to finally try Sifu.
And I'm honestly shocked that it took us this long to play it.
Well, it's one of those games that I have my eye on.
Decided
I'm
never going to
play
play
the
it.
thing.
Yeah.
Really?
Why is that?
I decided that I would never play it. That's why I have not played it.
Oh. Is there a particular reason, though, Brad? I'm just curious.
Oh, well, I mean, let Chris Davis talk about it.
Okay.
I'll tell you why.
Sifu is a pretty cool game. I've only played through the first 3 stages. For those who don't know, this is a roguelite beat-em-up brawler game in which you play as the student of a recently murdered kung fu master. And you've come back. You've tracked down the gang that was responsible for the death of your Sifu years earlier, and it's a quest for revenge. You can play as a male or female Sifu. I chose the female.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
I've listened to this on 3 different podcasts. I don't think anybody has mentioned.
Yeah, you can do it.
I had no idea.
I think it's like you're not much of a character, right? I mean,
as the game progresses and you become more of a threat to the gang, they acknowledge you more. So I do think your character does grow a little. But again, I've only played the first 3 stages. I've started the 4th and realized that I was not ready for that. So I backed the hell out.
I like how you say you've played through the first 3 stages. Like that is something that couldn't take someone 30 hours to do. Like getting through 3 stages in this game is a lot.
Yeah, this game has developed a bit of a reputation for being incredibly challenging.
It is very challenging. This is one of those games that you should not feel bad at all for playing on the easy.
And you also have, I'm sure you were probably going to get to it, but maybe just to kind of skip ahead for a second, like there's kind of a twist to this game as far as like the progression and how the story progresses and how the character progresses, right? So
yes,
every time you fail, you die. What happens?
So when you die, and early game, you're going to die quite a bit. You don't specifically die. So there's, as part of the story, your master was protecting a magical artifact that could revive you from the dead at the cost of a year of your life. So every time you fall in combat, you have the option to give up and reset to earlier in your life. But you can choose instead to rise up at the cost of some power of the relic and a year of your life. So you fall in combat, you rise up, and you lose a year of your life. You're now 21 instead of 20.
And you literally age.
Yes, you literally age.
If you die enough, you'll eventually be like 60.
The game maxes out at I believe 67.
Damn.
Yeah.
You can still kick ass at 67.
You mean that's when you really can't fight anymore?
I mean, evidently you can still kick ass at that time, but if you hit 67 and you die again, I think you die permanently.
You just die of old age? Natural causes?
No, I think like
Broken
you just
hip.
got the shit beaten out of you. You're an old person. You're now dead.
So you're just a really old person that just got beaten to death.
Yes,
Like,
pretty
like
much.
it, like that is the thing that doesn't happen. It certainly could happen. But like,
Here's the thing that I know about this game that kind of makes me not want to play it. Besides the fact that it's like really hard, although it sounds like there's a new easy mode, it's really hard and it's really counter based and stuff, and you got to be on it at all fucking times. It's that it saves your age when you go to the next stage. So if you just had a really rough time and you finally get through a level, beat the boss, and you're like 55, now you have to start stage 2 at 55. And at that point, it's like, well, fuck that. I'm never going to get through this next stage. Let's just start the game over until I get through the entire first stage without, barely dying at all. So I'm 23 on the end of it. And you kind of have to do that for every stage, or you're not going to get through the game.
I mean,
Well,
so
I mean,
that's
it makes
half
sense,
of
isn't
the
it?
equation, though. You're not mentioning
It's very old school
permanent
that way.
progression
Like,
works in this game.
yeah, I hear that's kind of light, but I don't know much about it. Go ahead.
wait, so what are you saying that if you die like permanently, quote unquote, like some of that will carry over to your next?
So,
No,
so
no,
if you permanently die and you've used up all of your relic, it's game over, from what I understand.
Right. So, so are you starting from literal scratch the next time you start the
Yeah,
game over?
you've lost. From what I understand, I have not gotten to that state. I've never gotten out of my 30s. Evidently you lose
It's like
all your permanent progression. It's basically new game.
Nick, it's like an old NES game where you have continues, right? And you're like,
Right.
you beat the first stage, but you used up most of your continues, and now you're on stage 3 and you have no fucking continues. So stage 3 is fucking impossible because you need continues to get through stage 3. It's harder than stage 2. So you just have to like master the early parts of the game so well to where when the game gets really hard, you have all your fucking continues. So you
But isn't
basically
that
have to play the game
kind of-
perfectly.
You're right. You're right. But like, isn't that kind of depending on who you ask? I would imagine like kind of the draw. Like, it's skill based. So like when you start over, the assumption is you're gonna be able to blow through that first level, or
Well,
with,
but
with
it's
very
fucking
few
hard.
Yeah,
No,
but like
look,
the idea is
some
you will
people,
be a better
dig
player.
it. Some people dig it. What we're getting at is kind of why I'm not going to play this game. It's the same reason I didn't finish like Sekiro or whatever. It requires like so much like sustained, like you got to be on your shit for such long periods of time in these fights where you can't fuck up at all. You got to perfect all your fucking counters and do all your dodges, and it's just nonstop. And if you like let up a little bit, you're just fucking over. And I don't, at my age, I can't do that anymore. I don't have the kind of
Oh, no.
time.
At
I don't
my
have the
age,
kind of time to
what's happening?
master a game that way. I mean, it's relentless.
Okay,
I've
so-
seen a lot of this game.
So let's back up real quick. So there are the two elements of progression. There's what Brad was talking about with age and things like that. But then there's the permanent progression, the more roguelite stuff. So when you're playing, you get XP as you're progressing and based on how well you're doing in combat. And when you die, or when you find one of the Jade Dragon icons on the map, you can spend your XP to unlock new fighting moves and focus abilities. But you only unlock it for that run. So to permanently unlock it, you have to spend 5 times the amount that base amount of XP to unlock it. So what you're doing is you're constantly replaying levels to gain enough XP to permanently unlock your abilities, and then you want to more progress along in the story.
Okay.
But there's also some pretty cool things that are built into this game. This is a roguelike that doesn't have a lot of much of any randomization to it as far as enemy placement, level structure, things like that. It's always going to be the same basic level structure.
Right.
But as you progress in the game and you find unlockable items that go on your detective board, you can find items that actually act as keys and shortcuts for progression through the map. And what's cool is that the detective board, in a lot of games, like detective boards are just like, lore dumps with like little bitty bits of story that really don't have any real impact on what's going on. In this, it actually points out the items that you found and draws direct lines to the levels and where you can use those items. So you know where to progress and you know where to go. So it really does encourage you to say, not follow the same track every single time that you play through. Maybe now that you have this key, go check out this door and see what's behind there. Or go to this area of the map that you didn't have access to earlier to fight this little mini boss that gives you a special new ability or things like that. And that's pretty cool.
No, I think a lot of these design concepts to me sound really interesting, and paired with like this really slick presentation and I think the aging thing is like super dope.
It's really smart. I really do like it.
I have some NES games I can recommend to you.
I mean, it does. There is, like Brad is complaining, that classic level of NES toughness and continue-based progression is a part of the core of this game. But I think
it's a love it or hate it situation probably. But like,
yeah,
I beat Sekiro.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm not certain I would be enjoying this game as much as I
know
am if I had not played Sekiro. Because Sekiro, I've never really been really one for like parrying in video games up until Sekiro. That's why I kind of bounced off Metal Gear Rising and a couple other character action stuff. But after Sekiro, and I finally, it clicked in my head as to the rhythm of parrying and combat and things like that. That's a very big part of this game. Because in combat, sure, you got your light attacks, your heavy attacks, but you have dodges, you have parries, and you
have to pick up shit and hit them with it.
Well, you also have that, but there's dodges, parries, and blocks, and each of those have a different focus. The parries, you want to use them in certain instances. Based on what the enemy's wielding. Blunt objects and just punches, that's when you want to use parries. But if they have a bladed weapon, you don't want to do that because, sure, you can do damage to their stance meter, but you're going to take chip damage from that. And with a blunt or a punch or a kick, you don't take that. There's also enemies that are specifically designed for you to have certain strategies of dodging and weaving versus parrying and stuff like that. This game is surprisingly
quick reflexes, right?
Yeah,
you have to be able to observe and react quickly on the fly.
Yeah,
you know how that thing in Sekiro where you see like the little red icon and you're like, oh, is this one where I have to jump, or is this one where I have to dodge to the left, or is this one where I have to dodge back? And you have to figure that out at a split second and just do it. That's what this game is all about, and that's the thing I hate. I can't stand that. Like I can't. I freeze up when I see that red icon. You know, I'm like, I don't have enough time to figure this shit out, and then I just end up getting hit, or I do the wrong thing. And,
I will say this,
and I can't stand that.
No, I see what you're saying. One thing, this looks to me kind of like the antithesis of, because you know how everybody talks about, especially when you have like character action games or action games in general, where especially third-person action games where you're tasked with like fighting multiple people at once, and everyone always complains like, oh, everyone else is just kind of waiting their turn while you beat up a dude and another person comes for it. This seems like the antithesis of that. Which honestly, if you're gonna make a game about doing kung fu, that I feel like is kind of essential. Like, because martial arts, like watching a fight scene in like a movie is exciting because you're watching people react on the fly to like things coming from multiple different directions, and like being able to recreate that vibe in gameplay sounds really cool to me. It also sounds hard as fuck.
Yeah, no, it really can.
But I'm into it.
The difference between the difficulty levels in this game are two things. Number one, the enemies are not as aggressive, and two, you have a little bit more health. That's about it. You still have the same amount of enemies. You have the same type of enemies to deal with. They're just not as aggressive in their attacks. What the footage you're watching is the easy mode, the student mode. Because I started out this game on normal, which is Disciple, and that kicked my
I've heard
ass
that
left and right.
Yeah, I've heard that easy mode is actually not particularly easy, but
No.
it's better. I'm gonna give this game a shot. This looks really cool.
I also want to mention real quick we've kind of danced around the combat, but like
Have we?
it feels so responsive. It feels so good to get into combat with like 8 or 10 enemies and just know that when I press block or parry or dodge or something like that, it's gonna happen, and it's gonna
like
happen
the opposite
right
of Trip
then.
to Yomi, to be totally honest.
Yeah,
Because Trip to Yomi is very much sluggish.
Yeah, this is not sluggish. The game is going to allow you to react to whatever happens. And though it doesn't have that Arkham or that Sekiro like notification of, hey, an attack is incoming, get ready to counter or block, you really get to the point to where you understand how enemies will attack you and know what kind of block or parry to actually use.
Right.
I do kind of play this game pretty defensive. You can absolutely go balls to the wall offensive and just kick everyone's fucking ass. But it's versatile in what you can do. Also, real quick, there's in this I only show the first stage in this footage. And it's very industrial and like very set environments, but like this game starts to go places with its visual design. There are later levels that just become absolute mind fucks visually that are really fucking cool. The level 2 gets a little bit of it, but stage 3, when you get to that moment, is like, holy shit, what is going on? They have a lot of fun with this visually.
Well, this is certainly a game on my list. I'm gonna try sometime this year if I can ever get my head above water. Probably need to start by finishing Elden Ring.
Oh my god, what a scrub.
Shut up, Brad. Shut up. All right, we need to take a break. When we come back, we got a little bit of news to cover, and we'll answer some questions from our listeners. So if you're watching us live, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. There we go. Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. Brad, did you want to open this segment with something in particular? I can't remember.
What?
You sounded like you wanted to say something on the show, so you were like, we need to start recording. Okay, that was just me. All right.
It was time.
Oh, okay. Well, disregard that then. I do want to, before we get into the news, I just real quickly wanted to mention, and you know what, Chris Davis, don't even roll the footage. I don't know if you're prepared to. Don't roll it. I just wanted to mention that I did play the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe last night, and as someone who
much of it?
I played for about 2 hours, a little over 2 hours. As someone who has not played Stanley Parable before,
what'd you think?
It's kind of a game where you kind of need to play all of it before you start talking about. But I'm curious. Go ahead.
Yeah. I kind of got that vibe because I was about to say my first instinct feels wrong because I haven't played the whole thing. Because my first instinct is to say, I don't think I get it. But I mean, I get it. I get the humor, and I get the bit. And it's already doing some really funny, smart things. I just don't get it. Like, I'm not sure what the point is. But maybe that would be more clear to me.
The point is to discover the story.
You don't get why people like it.
No, I definitely get what people like because I had a lot of fun playing it. But at the end of the day, I was like, at the end of the day, I didn't, like, I don't know if I feel the pull to play it again. Because I still don't. I don't feel like I got anywhere or did anything of any consequence at all. I did check out the new content, which is actually really funny because like there's a big door with like a neon sign that's like pointing. It's like, here's the new content.
Wait, aren't you
And
supposed to do that after you finish
I don't
Stanley
fucking
Parable?
know. I mean,
that
I've
that
never played
unlocks
it
after you
before.
get a couple endings.
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, I got a couple endings.
I think that one unlocks after you get the freedom ending.
I
think it's that.
got an ending where I refused to walk through a door that he was telling me to go through, and then I got to a phone, and I said, fuck it, I'm not answering this phone, and then I unplugged the phone from the wall, which kind of like caused him to have a mental breakdown. That was pretty cool, even though I don't get it.
There's definitely a lot going on in the game.
Yeah, and I love, like, I really dig what they're doing, and like even today I booted it back up to capture footage, which we're not going to play, but I booted it because the new content thing is like I did it in the footage, and I was like, we can't show this. This is, I don't even know what this game is or what it's about, but like this feels like too big of a spoiler to just roll the footage on the show. But
You okay there?
yeah, I had a thought and I got distracted on it, and then I lost it. I don't know. I booted it up today to record footage, and like when you first start the game, it's like it asks you some questions, and it's like, what time is it? And I was like, oh, this is probably gonna somehow play into the, the gimmick of it's gonna somehow do some weird shit. So I set the time yesterday, played for 2 hours, quit. Booted it up again today. It asked me to set the time again. I was like, did it not save anything that I did? Like, what the fuck? So I set the time again, and it's like, you know what? Thank you. Most people completely ignore this screen, but you took the time to set the time. And I have no way of even knowing if the time you put is correct. So congratulations. And I was like, okay, this is funny. It's like, it's recognizing things that I've done in the game before I even said, start the game.
The
Which is
Stanley
cool. I get
Parable
it.
appreciates you, Jim.
Well, the thing is,
God damn it, Chris Davis, don't you call me Jim one more time.
the thing is, you're always playing the game.
Because the end is never the end.
See, I guess I'm not in on the joke yet. Even after two plus hours, I'm not really in on the joke. Chris Davis clearly is. I don't know. I'll keep going.
We've all played Stanley Parable.
Okay, someone tell me this. What do, as someone who's never played it before, how do you even know when you've finished this game? Like, I don't understand. What am I doing? What should I be focused on here?
You finish the game when you turn it off, but you're not finished with the game.
I walked right into this bullshit meme. Okay, we're moving on. Oh god, news. Brad, I'm gonna give you a chance to get this off your chest. If there is indeed anything you want to say about Monster Hunter Sunbreak after yesterday's
Yeah, there
thing.
was a digital event yesterday where we learned some new things. They showed us, a couple new monsters, whatever. But that's fine. They're gonna trickle out the monsters and not show all of them, and they're also not really gonna talk about the post game, which is sort of the most kind of exciting part of a Monster Hunter expansion, because that's where you're going to spend the large portion of your time.
Right.
Like when Iceborne came out, they didn't even mention the guiding lands until it was out, and people just found out about, this new place that connected all that, whatever. The big new thing, I think, in this one is that there's, again, I don't want to get too technical, but they have this thing called I don't even remember what it's called. Like, basically, you're going to be able to create loadouts of your switch skills. You know how, like, when you have to do that from your item box, right? Where you have like 3 different slots, and you can pick which switch skill you want to use. And then you go into a hunt, and that's what you have. Now you actually have a maneuver that where you can switch your sets of switch skills on the fly, and even like kind of turn that into a dodge. So now where you had to make like difficult choices of like, oh, do I want this skill or do I want this skill? This one's a little like does a little more damage, but it's more like, think of like Longsword they showed this one in the trailer, has the Sakura slash, right? Which is like a pretty easy to do move, and it builds your spirit gauge. Or you can use the Helmbreaker, which leads to like huge massive damage, but it's harder to use. Now you can just like do the Sakura slash, do your little skill switch, and then go for a Helmbreaker. Basically, they're giving you access to so much more like skills. They're giving you so many new skills with the expansion. Now you have 5 slots where you can switch between skills, plus you can do a whole other loadout that you switch on the fly. Basically, they're turning this game into Devil May Cry, and it if you thought it was fast and crazy and nuts before, it's going to be insane now. My only concern is that there are weapons that had a lot of good, silkbind moves, like a lot of good switch skills, and it was a difficult choice. Ooh, do I want to use this or do I want to use this? Like Sakura Slash and Helmbreaker, or Soaring Kick, whatever they call it, from Longsword. But then there's weapons that like had a lot of like crappy ones where you're like, oh, well, of course you'll just use this one because that other one's useless. Well, what this is going to do is the weapons that already had a lot of good skills are going to be so much better already, because now you have access to all of those in any given moment. Where like the weapons that were kind of struggling, like Lance or whatever, who didn't have a lot of good skills, now you have access to like switch between them on the fly. That doesn't mean anything because that other skill sucked. And I'm just hoping that some of the weapons that were struggling in Rise proper are going to get a lot of good, new, powerful skills. Otherwise, this whole new mechanic thing is going to feel kind of lame. I don't know. Some of my favorite weapons in the game are like way on the bottom of the speedrun list, way on the bottom of the usage list. So I'm hoping my weapons get some love. I guess the other big thing I want to mention real quick is they have this mechanic called followers, where you bring like people from like the town
NPCs.
on the hunts with you. NPCs into hunts with you, and they're on like single player missions. And the reason that that's cool and different is because they're using it they're going to use it as like a storytelling device. Because before, like when you're on a hunt with your Palicos or your Palamutes or whatever, it's pretty quiet. Like, oh, I'm going to go hunting in silence, by myself in these, single player missions. Now you have like characters like constantly talking to you and stuff while you hunt around. And it reminds me of like when they did like the Witcher DLC for Monster Hunter World, where they injected a story into the actual like hunt and how cool that was. Now it seems like they're kind of doing that as like a main part of the game, and that seems really cool to me. So I
was gonna say that I could imagine that being fun in almost a better way of story, of giving out exposition, because that was one of the things with Rise, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think other Monster Hunter games weren't like that you got like a big exposition dump when you start the fight or when you start the mission, and you don't really get anything else throughout the thing, and there's not really like major cutscenes or anything. It's just you have that big kind of trailer at the beginning.
World did have a lot more of that. Rise was very like bare bones when it came to that stuff. There's like nothing in an actual mission.
But that's what I say. Like I like the concept more of, instead of a intro where you have a guy telling you all about this monster, it's potentially you go off, maybe almost like I would say, like the whole point is you have like a quest and you're kind of hired to go off and do a thing or whatever. Maybe that person that hires you goes with you, and they're kind of telling you about the monster as you're going to hunt
Makes
them.
it more organic.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's cool. So
sounds cool.
I'm excited. Good news.
Did they tease any like new like areas or anything? Like, I'm assuming we're gonna get some new like
a new city
maps. There's a new city.
Yeah,
new
you're not in Kimura Village anymore, obviously.
Did they show any of the food? I want to see the food.
I think it's Dongos again, dude.
No.
I don't understand that at all, but we'll see. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Saragios is back. He was the Saragios was the flagship from Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, and he's cool because his weapons had this effect where you could sharpen your weapons by rolling. It was just like a cool bonus effect that all his weapons had. So I hope they bring that weapon effect back, because that seems really cool.
That's pretty cool. Just since this seems like an appropriate place to mention this, I have officially double dipped on Rise, so I can play it on my Steam Deck, and so I'm gonna start.
It plays really good on there.
Well, I haven't even tried it yet. So now that I've finished Trek to Yomi, I'm gonna start that up, see how it goes. I'm kind of scared because I feel like I've already forgotten everything about that game in terms of how it plays.
Those weapons that I suggested, try those. There are some weapons that are
new, I definitely intend to try something fresh this time.
I've been mastering the Switch Axe, and let me tell you, it's not been hard to master. It's
pretty going to be hard to resist.
When is Sunbreak out, by the way?
June 30th.
June 30th.
My birthday.
I got to get some gaming in before then, because once that comes out, I'm going to be spending a lot of time.
You don't say. All right. The other thing newsworthy I wanted to kind of talk about briefly here is WB Montreal released some footage of Gotham Knights, and it seems divisive. I don't know how many of y'all watched this footage. Krispy did.
I did.
It's been getting. I know Chris Davis did, and I know some people in our Discord have. And it's funny because I've seen a lot of people have like really harsh reactions to it, and I've seen a lot of people are like, "This is exactly what I was hoping for," and I'm just like, I don't know where I fall, because I feel like I'm somewhere in between, because I think it very much kind of depends on which character they're showing. I was much more impressed with Batgirl and Robin, which was the focus of their last demo, than I was with Red Hood and Nightwing. Although Nightwing, I do like Nightwing's glider that he can use to traverse the city. It looks really cool. It looks like they found some interesting, fun ways for them to navigate the city. But I just wanted to kind of get y'all's impression. I know Chris Davis is pretty negative on it.
I mean, I'm negative. I'm fine with the traversal. I am negative on the combat and the activities that you're doing, because it looks bad.
I think Red Hood in particular did not look like a character I have any interest in playing as, personally. That's more of from his like fighting style. But like when it was focused on Nightwing, I was way more interested, and like I already said, Batgirl and Robin I was more interested in. And the thing that they kind of chose to show off, at least early on in this demo, which was basically just stopping these dudes from like hacking into a bank vault or something, which it honestly, it seemed like they were trying to like harken like they were going for like the beginning of the Dark Knight. These hackers are trying to hack into the bank or whatever, and you got to stop them, which seemed kind of it wasn't a very grand way to kind of show this stuff off. They didn't, like, later on in the demo they showed them fighting like henchmen from the Court of Owls, which was more interesting.
Well, I mean, I'm not talking about the variety of henchmen. I'm talking about how many henchmen you're fighting in the spaces that you're in. In the footage we're watching right here, it's
like
4
3
dudes on a
dudes.
fairly large rooftop. And he is just absolutely fucking flying across the map in acrobatic ways that are just does not look entertaining at all.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to say about that. I feel like there was a time in my life when I would have been right there with you, Chris Davis. But this, and maybe you're right. Maybe this is going to be a mess. I don't know. But this strikes me as one of these games that animates kind of awkwardly, but feels better. Like, like I'm trying to think of, there was a game I was trying to think of as an example, where when I was, honestly, I mean, I don't mean to like start shit, Brad, but like I've always kind of felt this way about Monster Hunter until I actually played Monster Hunter. Like watching hours of footage of people play Monster Hunter and just being like, that looks clunky and not particularly satisfying to me. But as soon as I finally started getting my hands on the controls, and like, it still looked kind of clunky, but
you know what it kind of reminded me of?
What's that?
Arkham Origins.
That's
but not as good.
Well, Arkham Origins wasn't good, but
that's what I'm saying.
This looks like that.
There is a reason for that.
I'm not quite. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm not very surprised that it looks like that, right? Like,
I think it's probably going to be a little closer to.
There was that thing in the back of my. Yeah, I don't know. I agree with Chris Davis that the combat looks weird, because it is. Yeah, I don't know. There's just this weird disconnect between the animations where, like, it looks like he's doing like a little hop to get over to some guy, but they're just like sliding him across the ground, like,
Yeah.
I don't know. There's this weird, like, sticky kind of bungee quality to the combat that I don't know. I mean, it might be fun to play, like you said, Nick.
I mean, honestly,
I'm not
there's that sticky quality. That sticky quality that you mentioned, I think exists in like Arkham Asylum and City and Night, but it
does.
They mask it really well.
It does.
It seems like that without the smooth masking of it.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
I can agree with that. So that's I don't know. It doesn't look crazy. I don't know how fun it's gonna be. How fun it is gonna be to play. And I am still absolutely going into this with that whole like, well, these guys made Arkham Origins kind of mindset. Um, but I didn't have as visceral a reaction as like a lot of people seem to have. Like I still I don't know. I still think between this and Suicide Squad looks way better. Like
Yeah.
this looks like the fun game we're gonna play to hold us over until that comes out, you know? So I don't know I don't really understand the reaction in that regard. The people who were like, oh, I don't like that Red Hood has a magic jump. Like, shut up. Like who cares? Like who cares?
It's dumb, but it's a unique traversal method.
Yeah.
Down a little bit when he's doing like when he's jumping around with the magic stuff. I mean,
and I mean it's like and what you're saying, Nick, what you were saying about like this doesn't look like a character that I want to get involved with at all. I mean,
it's mostly because of the guns.
To be fair, I think a lot of that is just that Red Hood is kind of lame. Like he just kind of sucks. He's like the fucking red-haired stepchild of the Bat family. Like,
his main combat method in this game is firing pistols that fire non-lethal rounds, and his special ability is to fire armor-piercing non-lethal rounds.
I don't know.
They just pierce through armor.
They pierce through armor and then they stop.
Exactly.
I don't know what
they
that
dissolve
means.
when they touch skin. No,
I do like that they kind of like roided him out and like made him all like fucking Mega Chad for this game.
It's actually
to voice him.
Crispy. It's actually Mega Thad.
Mega Thad. Yeah.
Thad.
He's out of control.
The irony of this is like I was really excited. I was excited at the prospect of playing as some alternative Bat family characters, but the character I am like way excited to play as in the game is Batgirl, and she apparently is the closest to Batman like of the four, which is kind of weird. I'm gonna do my best to kind of make sure I'm gonna do my best to kind of like bounce around and try them all out, but I feel like I'm gonna be spending like 80% of my time in this game running around as Batgirl.
I just think that this game is built with co-op in mind, and they built the combat around that, and it just doesn't look like it works well.
Fuck, I forgot. He has like a little grapple hook thing that like he fires his grapple hook, but it just goes out a little bit and fires a rocket like up to like catch him so that he doesn't have to. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That is the dumbest shit I've ever seen. I love it so much.
Who are we talking about? Nightwing?
Nightwing. He just did a thing on his little fast travel where like he uses his grappling hook and it fires, but like it fires a little rocket that only like stretches out like 10 feet from his grapnel and then like, fires its boosters to like counteract him falling. So he doesn't have to like grapple onto a surface. He's just like firing a rocket into a point in space and then using that to land, which is the dumbest idea I've ever heard of. And I love it. It's perfect. It's wonderful.
Yes,
no comments. Like so good. I do also like his little glider thing. You were talking about that, Nick?
Yeah.
Nightwing's little glider. It does look fun. It does look unique. But then I also remembered that it looks like Fortnite. It looks like
somebody on Kind of Funny mentioned that, and I was like, oh, why'd you have to go and ruin that?
It looks
I've
like
never even heard of this thing in Fortnite, and you've ruined it. Maybe
the
that's what they're going
glider.
for.
Nick, the glider is called Rooster.
Is it? I thought it was called the Trapeze or something.
That's just a callback to earlier.
Oh,
don't forget about Top Gun's Rooster.
No, I definitely didn't retain that. Thank you.
I look at this game and I'm like, this is WB Montreal like being really big fans of the Arkham franchise and Rocksteady refusing to give them their Arkham tools to make a game, so they made the closest approximation they possibly could.
I think this is going to be a really fun 7. I think this is gonna be a 7
is
that we're
a-
all like, whatever. We had fun. It sucks,
This
but
harkens back to
whatever.
our conversation from a few weeks back, Crispy, where
Yeah.
it's a
Isn't
how did you
isn't
put
that
it,
what
Brad?
Arkham Origins was, and you just couldn't let it go?
I couldn't let it go. Yeah, but I was younger and I had a lot more rage and anger in me at the time. So,
Crispy is generally a more peaceful person these days.
yeah.
Chris
So
Davis,
so
to kind of talk about, because I hadn't seen this footage before, I'm watching it now for the first time. But in regards to what you were saying earlier about like the combat and the movement and stuff like that, it very much gives me like Spider-Man PS4 slash Miles Morales vibes. It's very floaty. It's very kind of like him stretching and flying across the screen, where it makes sense for Spider-Man to do it because he's using abilities or whatever. He's Spider-Man, but like Nightwing just kind of like floating from point A to point B. It's a little weird.
Yeah. It doesn't make
And-
sense for the threats that they're throwing at you and how few threats
But
they're
again-
throwing at you.
But again, and honestly, I think it has to do with the number of enemies that were on screen, at least in this scenario. I'm hoping they populate it more a little bit, and maybe they did this specifically for the sake of, I don't know, for making sure he doesn't get his ass kicked or something in the demo. I don't know. But if you go back and play Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, Arkham Knight, he is definitely
he is,
magnetized
for sure.
and like bouncing around the environments. But the animations that connect those things are smoother, are better. But like, I think this game still has a chance of being fun. Maybe the story delivers. I don't know. My biggest concern right now, honestly, aside from Red Hood being lame, is
Dude, no, he's
the
doing the
city-
equilibrium gun kata. That's what it is,
Yeah.
The Christian Bale in Equilibrium fighting Sean Bean, and they're using the gun kung fu. That's what Red Hood is.
What did this developer do before this? That was after
Arkham Origins. Oh,
No, what did they do after Arkham Origins and before this?
Are we sure they did anything between Arkham Origins and this?
Surely, right?
This is their first project that they've owned since they made Arkham Origins in 2013.
They probably
Some had to have been
Well,
canceled. I
Oh,
guess.
they did.
They were working on a pitch for a Arkham game starring Damian Wayne, and
They-
that fell through. So
They
this
did-
is their
okay.
project replacement.
So they did the port for Arkham City, the Armored Edition that they put on Wii U. In 2013, they had 3 games. They had Cartoon Universe, Lego Legends of Chima Online, and Batman Arkham Origins. And Gotham Knights will be their next game. Between 2013 and now, in 2015, they released 4 DLC packs for. They developed 4 DLC packs for Arkham Knight.
Oh, okay.
Did they do the Batgirl DLC for Arkham Knight?
They did Red Hood,
I'm
Harley
guessing,
Quinn, Batgirl, and Scarecrow's Nightmare.
Which is
Pack.
honestly probably what got them the green light for this project. You know what I mean?
Well, sure.
Perhaps. But that
you know,
also is not right.
Well, what got them the green light is Rocksteady saying they didn't want to do Batman anymore.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But hey, you know what? I'm still looking forward to this. My bigger concern right now, honestly, is I hope the city doesn't feel like dead and empty. You don't really get a feel for that.
I mean, it certainly looks
But
like
all-
it from the footage.
I mean, all the Arkham games have had that problem. I think even when Rocksteady worked on these games, they had that problem, and they always found out some convenient excuse to make the cities empty, whatever. And they might do the same thing here, but I'm hoping they find a way
This
around that.
poor
I don't know.
fucking developer. Everyone.
Oh, come on, man.
Everyone
let's
should-
not like patronize. Like, come on.
No. I'm saying I feel sorry for the developer because the way people talk about this game is like, all right, just don't fuck it up too much. Yeah. No one's like, this could be the best Arkham game. Like, no one's really talking like that.
Did you play Lego Legends of Chima Online?
Yes, it was amazing.
Hey, you know what? Expectations may be a little bit lower, so that leaves them more room to surprise us.
True.
It's
All
true.
right, so let's move on. I want to answer some questions tonight from our lovely listeners. Again, guys, if you have a question you would like to ask us for a future show, you can do so by going to our Discord at discord.gg/4Player. We have a submit a question channel, and I start a thread every week for the episode. This is, of course, episode 719. We have a few questions tonight. Are y'all ready?
Yes, sir.
Ready.
yes.
All right. Can I say yes, sir? That's cool. Cracknacker has our first question. Cracknecker asks, with both the Steam Deck and Switch proving popular with a large number of people, do you think either Sony or Microsoft will ever revisit the idea of a portable or hybrid console? Or do you think integrating Game Pass / PlayStation Now with the existing portable consoles is as far as they might take it?
I don't know what Sony's gonna do because they
Sony
just seem
maybe,
like
Microsoft of course not.
they seem like crazy
Yeah.
people. But yeah, Microsoft's definitely not going to because they need handheld gaming to be fucking.
I mean, like,
they need it to be. They need to be tablet centric, you know.
Yeah,
And they,
xCloud
yeah.
on your phone. I mean,
I
that's,
mean,
Yeah.
and to be,
Yeah.
let's be honest, the Steam Deck has satisfied I think at this point, the mobile PC gaming market. I mean, all like, I think if they can make Game Pass, an actual application on the Steam Deck that runs without having to jump through any hoops, and it's just like another part of the Steam Deck that you can maybe even launch from Steam or from the dashboard. Like, if they can integrate it that way, I don't think they have to even consider putting together their own hardware. I think by the time they get to that point, there's going to be enough Steam Decks out there, and it seems to be doing pretty well.
Logistically, how does that work?
That's a good question. I don't know. I mean,
what would Steam get out of letting Microsoft do that? Like, Microsoft would probably have to because it's not like they're gonna be. I mean, don't get me wrong, you can buy games on the Xbox app and stuff like that, but I do think a lot of people like myself stream do straight up Game Pass, and
Right.
so it's like, is Microsoft giving Steam a cut of that then?
I mean, I think at some point some money is going to have to exchange hands.
Oh yeah,
for that
but
deal
that's
to
what
go
I'm,
through.
I'm just trying to think of how that would work. Yeah.
I think on Microsoft's end, it's going to come down to like, well, do we want to put all the money do we want to put a bunch of money into R&D and development time to make a piece of hardware that may not actually be able to compete with the Steam Deck, rather than just come to an agreement with Valve and incorporate Game Pass into that product that already exists? To me, that seems more likely. Now, Sony revisiting this, I feel like Sony has tried too many times, and it's just kind of like,
Sony's not going to do it.
maybe here's the bigger question:
But
is
also,
there even...
we're talking like they're saying that the chip shortage is going to go on for another 2 years. Like, what company is thinking about like getting into serious hardware development?
I mean,
the only reason we got the Steam Deck at this point is because it was already in development long before the pandemic hit and these chip shortages started becoming an issue.
If Sony was going to release a new mobile platform, a new handheld, they would have done it within a couple years of the Switch launch, because the Switch did gangbusters, and that should have been a big enough demonstration for them to know, hey, maybe we should try this one more time.
But there's also
there's a
big difference in the audience. There's a big difference in the audiences, though. Like, the Switch appeals to a broader audience. It appeals to a younger audience. Like, the PlayStation has been so successful because it's so focused on like a core audience of like older audience. There's a lot AAA development. There's a lot of more mature rated games, that kind of thing. People looking for like the premium first party exclusive shit on that platform. I just don't know how. I mean, people didn't exactly flock to. I mean, maybe the Vita wasn't successful because there wasn't a lot of great software on it, but
well, the PSP was huge in Japan, and
oh yeah, for sure,
the Vita did better there than over here. And the thing is, I think the Switch just became the best-selling system of all time in Japan. Like, the Switch is insane over there. So, like, for Sony to try to compete against that right now would be like absolute insanity.
The thing is, at this
if
point,
they're ever going to do this again, it's going to be not anywhere near the Switch's lifetime.
At this point, mobile or not mobile, like handheld gaming, I think means something different than it did back when they tried the Vita and whatnot, because of the Switch and now because of the Steam Deck, handheld gaming doesn't mean like a dedicated piece of hardware with its own software. It is a way to play games that you play on your home console or PC on the go.
I think it's all about, and I don't want to use the word being ahead of your time, but it's like one of those things where as home consoles and PCs were getting more powerful and more powerful, they were putting out all this stuff, but the mobile technology wasn't keeping up. Back in the day, a Game Boy Color, while obviously significantly less powerful than like an SNES or something, it still was pretty good for what it was. But now, like the types of games that they were, I say now, 10, 15 years ago, the types of games that they were putting out on the PSP and the Vita were very much not what I guess I don't want to say the world was looking for, but it's just like the style of games people were into were very different, and also the mobile consoles couldn't really live up to that. And so they kept trying to do it, but then developers also, obviously architecture was a big deal. Like I know some developers didn't like
Right.
developing things or the Vita, I think. But that's
Or
a
the PS3
challenge,
for that
and so
matter.
yeah, that's true too. But now all of a sudden, if you have for those that don't know, the core of a Steam Deck is just like a Linux based operating system. So it's like one
Yeah.
of those things where it's like, hey, you can just like as easy it is. Don't get me wrong, I know Linux and gaming don't exactly go hand in hand. They've always been some issues with that. But it's a lot easier to port a game to that than it is like dedicated hardware for some first proprietary system that Sony developed.
Right.
And so it's like one of those things where now it all of a sudden is a lot easier. So I mean, I don't really see it
Also,
happening. I don't know.
Sony is suddenly starting to pump a lot of money into getting their first party games on PC, and I think
Yeah.
that might be indicative of the direction they're going right now. Especially that might be a byproduct of like the chip shortage and whatnot. So if Sony was to ever make another go at a handheld platform or a piece of hardware, I feel like if it ever were to happen, in my opinion, it would probably be with whatever the next piece of major like console hardware is, and it would be kind of like a Switch. It'd be like a PlayStation 5 that you can take out of a dock and go with you, that kind of thing. Like, because I feel like the Switch has kind of revolutionized how we think of handheld gaming.
I don't think they would go in that direction. I think
I mean, I don't think
mobile
the
based.
chances of that are very high either. But I'm saying if they were to ever go back into that market, that is the only way I could ever see it happening, and it would not be during this generation.
I think their answer to any gaming outside of their PlayStation 5 ecosystem is
PC.
Spartacus, and using that for cloud streaming on third-party devices.
Which I know Brad has already got remote play working on his Steam Deck. So you know what I mean? Like there are ways to already be playing PlayStation games on a mobile device. You just have to jump through some hoops to get there, right? Our next question tonight comes from Haste. Haste says, "Can you guys remember the first video game you ever played, or at least the earliest memory that you can recall?"
Yeah,
surely we've answered this one before, but
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure we have.
I think for me it
in
was
some form.
honestly probably some arcade game. God,
I remember it
Really?
specifically. I was in a daycare, and they had a NES, and they had Duck Hunt. They had a dual cart with Duck Hunt and Mario Brothers on it, and it was Mario Brothers.
Yeah, I think Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt might be mine. If I was to, since Chris Davis already provided that answer, if I was to take that out of the equation, then for whatever reason, this might not be chronological, but the next thing that jumps into my head was Return of the Jedi and the SNES. Is it the SNES? I think
Super
so.
Return of the
Super
Jedi.
Return of the Jedi.
Super
Yeah,
Return
Super.
of the
Yeah,
Jedi,
Super Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, as your first game.
I mean, after Mario and Duck Hunt, maybe. I mean, honestly, it was probably something more like Mario Kart on SNES. I don't know. I didn't play the only thing I ever had on my Nintendo was Mario and Duck Hunt. After that, it was the SNES,
sure.
and I got Mario Kart. So actually, it was probably Mario Kart chronologically. And I didn't play my SNES very much. I played Super Return of the Jedi.
For me,
Not much else, and then I got my N64, and everything changed.
as far as at home, it might be some game on my Tandy computer. BC's Quest for Tires. Look that up. BC's Quest for Tires.
What is it? BC's? What?
BC's Quest for Tires. The letter B, the letter C's Quest for Tires.
I'm
Or
looking at
maybe
it right-
like The
Like
original
BC
Flight
as
Simulator?
in the comic strip BC.
I don't know. Is that what it's based on?
That's what
Is
the
it
art style looks
cavemen?
like.
I have
So
no
if
idea
we're
what that
if
sucks.
we're
art
talking
style?
about consoles,
You mean-
like if we're talking about video games that we played like at home, like the first one I ever played was Super Mario World on the SNES because that was my first console I ever got. We didn't even have a computer in our house until 2001. But the first game I can vividly remember playing was, I think I was visiting a family friend and they had like some old Windows computer and it was Ski Free. I think that's the first game I actually could remember playing.
There
And that
you go.
Yeti always fucking coming out
The
and
fucking
getting
Yeti.
me.
You couldn't escape the Yeti.
Oh man,
Mhm.
you know what other game I love that I don't remember? This is all because chronologically I have no fucking clue. But in the same vein of like Super Return of the Jedi, that Batman Returns game was that on the SNES as well? I think I played the shit out
The
of
beat
that
'em
game.
up?
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
bet
that was
it's actually like. I think we're all wrong. I bet it's actually like fucking Oregon Trail or like Number Munchers or some shit.
So
Surely, right?
I
I
know it's
remember-
not. 'Cause I
I'm
never
pretty
played Oregon Trail
sure.
until I went to school.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure mine is Tetris,
Uh,
and that wouldn't be playing so much as just like
I remember my
stacking
first PC game.
Metroids until I lose.
your first PC game
My
was
first was Mad
Alan
Dog
Wake.
McCree, baby. Mad Dog McCree.
Jesus.
Man, I love
Good
that
one.
game.
My
That-
first
I
PC
think
game.
Mad Dog McCree explains my love of Red Dead. I feel I feel like Red Dead is like
your
oh
love
my
of
God,
cowboys.
yeah, my love of cowboys. Yeah,
I never played the original Oregon Trail, but I played Oregon Trail 2. And that one was, in
know there was a
retrospect,
sequel.
quite a weird game. Also, yes, Brad, BC's Quest for Tires is based on the comic strip by Johnny Hart. I just looked it up.
Yeah,
That is
1983,
remarkable.
by the way.
Remarkable that Chris Davis had that piece of knowledge just waiting to be set free. All right,
No, it's
our
called
next question.
Wikipedia, but okay.
Oh, okay. Our next question comes from first time listener, chatter, question asker, Doppelganger. Says, what are some games? Okay, sorry, this is a very broad question, but hear me out. What are some games on PS2 you would recommend to play, any genre, and are there any in particular that any of you guys would personally like to go back and play? That is a very broad question, considering
boy.
how a lot of us
Brawler.
consider the PS2 to be one of the greatest consoles ever made. I think, well, not just us. Like that's a pretty. The library on the PS2 is absolutely bananas. I mean, there's a lot that I would love to go back and play. I'm still like, for me personally, I'm still like, even very recently, been thinking about Dark Cloud 2 a lot because I've never finished it, but I fucking adored that game. I played too much Spirta. That's probably the reason I didn't ever end up getting to the end because I got distracted playing that stupid golf game. But yes,
that was
Dark
not
Cloud
a
2
stupid
comes
golf
to-
game. It was
No, I know.
brilliant.
It was a brilliant golf game, but it's the same thing as like
Dirge of
Tetramaster or
Cerberus.
whatever, or you know what I mean? Triple Triad and stuff in Final Fantasy. Like I just spent way too much time playing that. But yeah, Dark Cloud 2 is gonna be my answer. Game's fucking phenomenal. And I know.
I mean, there's so much obvious ones. How about let's go for less obvious. How about Shadow of Rome? That game
yeah.
is sick.
Yeah.
Game is sick. One of Capcom's little hidden gems. Man, love that game.
I'm gonna go a little unorthodox with mine, and I'm just gonna say play Mobile Suit Gundam Zeonic Front because that game is a really cool idea that is executed very poorly. I don't.
I thought you were going to
did
say
not-
that was like the last time they made a good Gundam game or something.
No, they never made a good Gundam game. That's the thing.
Sure.
My first PS2 game was Mobile Suit Gundam Journey to Jaburo or Jabro or
my
however you
God.
pronounce it. And let me tell you
I
something.
remember
That
you talking
game-
about that on a podcast.
Yeah, that game's kind of miserable because it gets like really fucking difficult in like the third level. It's just not well designed. But that was a formative experience for me to play that game, especially like I can still remember the opening cutscene like clear as day in my head, and it was just fucking. It was so good. I didn't know what the fuck was going on. I did not know the story of Mobile Suit Gundam at that point, but there was something about it that just like got its hooks in me, and it's special. Even though it sucks, it's special.
That's
You know
all
what
they're
I mean?
asking for. They just want to know what's special to you. That's all that matters.
I mean, if
You
we're
know-
going along the lines of what Brad was saying with obscure titles, Pocop stole mine. It's Robot Alchemic Drive. That game is not very good, but it is fascinating.
It's
really
cool
selling
to
it.
have
I
played
wonder
it.
what that goes for on eBay these days.
It's
Oh.
cool to have played it and been like, wow, somebody made this game. What a cool idea. Why does it suck? Like,
And
I don't know why my brain keeps flashing to probably oh god, what was it? Summoner? I don't know why my brain is
No.
jumping to
like
that. No,
the
I'm not
launch
recommending
PS2
it.
game
Summoner?
But
Summoner?
like, I think I spent
The
a lot.
launch
I think I
game?
but Summoner also fucking D&D scene.
Oh, Crispy, you're breaking up.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So Brad, hold on. I was curious. So Robot Alchemic Drive PS2 new copy is selling for
Dude.
$500 on eBay.
Oh,
but here's the
shit.
fucking thing.
that's a new
That's
copy.
not bad.
$6 shipping. Go fuck yourself. I'm giving you $500 for a game and you're going to make me pay $6 more for shipping? Fuck you.
How dare they? How dare they?
My
know,
answer to
here-
this question was Magna Carta Crimson Stigmata.
I remember that
Magic
game.
card.
I worked at GameStop when that game came out, and
I worked at Game Crazy when that game came out.
I bought that game for reasons.
The Shadow
History,
Hearts
Nick.
Leave it at
games.
that.
The
History.
Shadow Hearts game are pretty contained to the PS2, and that's a cool series.
You know, here if I'm gonna give a genuine, maybe a genuine answer that's not obvious, I have very fond memories of the Mark of Kree on the PS2.
Yeah.
I've only ever heard
yeah.
good things about that.
Yeah, it's a cool game with nice atmosphere, and yeah, I don't know. That's one of those games I'd like to go back to, even for like a revival club or something. But I keep thinking, it's like, how the fuck would anybody play this? I mean, maybe
Well-
maybe you can emulate it. I don't know.
Yeah, well, of course you can.
There you go. Those are some just. I mean, keep in mind, Doppelganger, the PS2 is widely considered to be one of the best consoles ever released, and that's a lot of it has to do with how much dope ass shit is in that library. It is very good.
Yeah. Because you can play
Um,
Metal Gear Solid 3 and Katamari Damacy, you know what
Yeah.
I mean?
But you know,
got-
strangely
Metal
enough-
Gear Solid 2, and you could play Bully, and you could play
No,
like Grand Theft Auto. Like,
what I meant by
I
that
get-
statement is there's quirky little games, but there's also like big, huge.
No, I
awesome
know,
games.
but I'm echoing that even further, Brad. Yes, I'm saying there are so many great games. I mean, that's it's still to this day probably one of the best consoles of all time. Like for
Yeah.
how long? I mean, it was one of the few that actually did last the whole like 10 years of
Yeah.
being around, and them still putting out games for it. And it's one of those
You know
things where it's like, at the end of the PS3 life cycle, what fucking games are they putting out that were any good? But at the end of the PS2, they're like, oh, bam, Shadow of the Colossus. Fuck
Yeah.
you. Like one,
You know-
like one of the taking it to the next level.
It blows my mind. The PS2 is such a good platform with such an amazing library, but me, who holds Resident Evil in like the highest regard, basically, for all intents and purposes, kind of skipped that whole generation. With the exception, I mean, obviously Resident Evil 4 came out on the GameCube and was eventually ported to the PS2, but like,
Oh, was
Resident
Code
Evil-
Veronica?
I mean, that came out on the Dreamcast and was eventually ported to the PS2. But like, there was like, think of PlayStation 1, which had Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, and then all of a sudden the PS2 hits, and all these other franchises are like doing amazing things on the PS2. And Resident Evil got hit, like Dead Aim, Outbreak 1 and 2, which, depending on who you ask.
Well, I mean, you realize Capcom made a deal with Nintendo, right?
Yeah, no. I do. It's just, I know, and they eventually got it. It's just, as someone who at that time was so like PlayStation centric, and I have such fond memories of the PS2. It's just crazy to think back and be like, God, I love that platform so much, despite the fact that it has almost nothing of value for the Resident Evil franchise on it, which is crazy to me. All right. Let's see. The next question comes from Mr. Scorpion. Mr. Scorpion asks, this is a 4-player question. It says, if your fan base had continued to grow from its peak and you became bigger influencers over time, would you have eventually become too popular and decided to take a step back from doing this show so that your lives could remain private instead of becoming like the popular Twitch streamers that we see today? He's
What
basically
do you
asking.
mean?
He's basically asking, are we still doing this purely because we did not
It's
become huge
purely
popular streamers?
it's
I thought that's
purely
why
out
we
of
were
ego
doing it.
why we're still doing
I
this.
thought we were doing this for the money.
Wait, Crispy, what did you just say?
I said this is pure ego. That's why we keep
Yes.
doing this.
I mean, I like talking about video games. That's why I
just like
keep
talking
doing
about
it.
video games. No?
I need an
Would
outlet.
we have gotten too famous and would we have wanted to step back? I think yes, because I felt that way about this podcast when we weren't famous. Like, oh my god, I need some
is
time
too
to
much.
myself. Like,
Yeah. No, I feel you. You know,
I mean, there were times where when we first, got really popular that, we didn't want to say things about like, which we still don't out of like habit and because it's smart. But back then it was like if someone found out like where I worked or whatever, like there could be a lot of like crazy idiots like trying to call and get me fired or like weird stupid shit like that. And
somebody said something that came really close to basically revealing like where I worked at the time. This was years ago, and I remember
it was
just being like,
GameStop,
what
by
the
the
fuck?
way.
What are you
Undisclosed
fucking
video
doing?
game retailer.
Well, I mean, but like specifically like the actual like location, like here's the address and the phone number, that kind of thing, which was a little alarming, and that was when we were like, we were never like famous, but like it was like when we were popular enough that I was like, this might have repercussions that I'm not crazy about, and I got really pissed off that somebody did that.
A few years ago at work, we had like an intern, and after like 3 weeks or 4 weeks, he was like, "Yeah, I used to watch you on 4-Player Podcast." And I was like, "What the fuck?" Like out of nowhere, he just like brought it up. That he knew who I was the whole time.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, and then technology just brought that up in chat. So yeah, that did happen to me.
You're like, what do you mean used to?
Yeah, no. There was a guy that worked at Robin and I went to go shop for blinds for our windows at Home Depot, and the guy was like helping us, and then all of a sudden he was like, I used to watch you on Twitch, and I was like, what? This is what?
Used
Just
to.
like Nick closed the blinds.
Yeah, usually when this happens these days, which is not often, it's with the context of used to. But you know what? Like the fact that it's not super stressful, I actually really appreciate now. Like I just enjoy doing it for the sake of doing it these days. So, and Discord has kept like the community, like the people that like we want to be active and a part of, like thriving in kind of like the best way without a lot of the pressures. Like, God, if we ever got to the point where it's like people were like, we're gonna pay you $1 million to play the same game on your stream for the next 6 months, I feel like I would have quit this shit a long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, it
Taking
depends
$1
on the
million.
game.
Yeah.
I think
If it's a game I enjoy.
I will say this.
Look,
if
I had the opportunity to sell out, I would have done that long ago.
Oh yeah.
I think I've told the story before, so if I have, I do apologize. But I do find it to be one of the funniest moments of my entire life. Is I was going out to lunch with some friends, and my friend Marissa was telling her friend about us doing the podcast. It's like, oh yeah, they do podcasts and she was like doing the whole like, oh yeah, they're famous kind of thing. And I was like, no, we're not. We just do a podcast, and we have like,
is pretty good.
yeah, and we were like, she was telling her about it, and then we walk into a Chipotle. And we're getting in the line, and she's like, "Oh, that's really cool." So you're like, "Are you like famous or not?" I was like, "No, I'm not famous." And right as I said that, the guy making my burrito was like, "Are you Nick from 4-Player Podcast?" And she fucking like jaw hit the floor. I was like, "I can't believe that shit just happened," and it hasn't happened since. like nothing.
Well, you know,
like
Nick,
that since.
You know what?
My jaw hit the floor when I tried the 23 flavors and Dr. Pepper. A great drink. I'm just kidding.
You know what would have been really funny though is if like it came out later. Like I kind of like to think about that story you tell, Nick. where it's like it came out later that the guy making your burrito was just listening to the whole conversation and was just like such a bro that he was
No,
like, he was
that's
like, hey.
It's
true, but like,
I always hope that's what happened.
but like, I didn't tell her about like the specifics of it. I told her like as we were walking, because we walked across a parking lot and we were having the conversation before we were even in the Chipotle, and then I don't know, whatever. The point is, I was just like, that was like the most like ridiculous thing I think has ever happened in my life. Which, you know, that's depressing now, but I think about it, I guess.
It's fine.
But it is fun. It is a funny story. All right, our last question tonight comes from Tack to the Future. Tack to the Future is what his name is this week. Oh shit, I closed it. He says, "What's a TV show, movie, or game that would be made more interesting by throwing a member of 4Player podcast into the plot?" All of them.
Battle
The answer is all of
Royale.
them.
I'm throwing Chris Davis.
Assume they have no foreknowledge of what happens, but are otherwise exactly as they are right now. Oh man,
What bullshit can we throw Carlos in to make it interesting?
dude! You throw Carlos into just about anything.
Monday Night Football.
Wait, Carlos? Throw Carlos into Monday Night Football?
Any one of us, I think it would be. Just a comedy of errors.
Yeah, throw me into pretty much any sports game or movie or
I was
TV
gonna say
show.
throw Nick
And
into Steep.
the snowboarding
Wasn't-
game?
Yeah,
Is that what that was?
Yes.
I think so. Yeah.
Throw
That's a
Nick into
random tip.
Mike Tyson's Punch Out.
Oh man, I don't know. I mean, I feel like we'd pretty much we'd bring something to the table for just about anything in existence, right?
Mm-hmm. Catfish.
Not to-
Oh, catfish would be. Or like,
Catfish video game.
or like 90 Day Fiance, 90 Days the other
No,
way.
it's a trash reality TV show.
Yeah.
Love After Lockup.
What?
I mean, that doesn't that imply? Well, I mean, unless we're the ones, you know. Never mind. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have anything super creative for that one, Tack. Good try.
Yeah.
Good try. But, you know, we do appreciate the question. So, again, guys, if you want to ask us a question for a future show, just go over to our Discord, our free Discord, at discord.gg/4player. We'll have a thread set up in the submit a question thread for a future show. And just drop it in there, and we'll get to it next week. Also, I don't pimp this enough. I keep forgetting to bring this up. But, you know, if you listen to our show and you want to say something about any of these conversations we're having, leave us a comment on the post for this episode of 4playernetwork.com. If you want to correct us on shit that we get wrong, go over to 4playernetwork.com, find the post for this episode, drop it in there. We'll mention it on the show. But you got to go leave a comment. It's time to wrap up the show with the 4-player minute, final thought, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Brad?
You got to stop doing that. You've done that with other things before where you just
It's
keep
mostly 'cause
saying
Chris-
that every
it's mostly
episode.
Because Chris Davis keeps making me feel uncomfortable because like he never quite gets it.
So
Like if I just
tell
call
him-
it the 4. All right, it's the 4-player minute. All right,
the
that's it.
4-player minute.
I'm never saying final thought again. It is the 4-player
Thanks.
minute.
Well, my 4-player minute, I'm going to make it an extension of the conversation I was having about doing the Revival Club poll because I've been thinking about it and debating about it. And my thought is maybe I'm approaching this poll all wrong because I was thinking about putting on games that I wanted to go back and play, but really the biggest strength of the Revival Club is that Nick always plays and often finishes the game. So I'm thinking I should use this
I am steering this
opportunity.
ship.
I should use this as an opportunity to basically force him to play the classics he's ignored because he thinks he can't do it. So I'm trying to decide, and maybe I'll kind of ask
I
the
think
community
I can't
of
do
like,
it. What game do you think I can't do?
no, like whatever. Like in the past, you're like, oh, I can't play Chrono Trigger. There's little pixels or something. You know,
Okay,
I can't
that's
do
not
this.
at all what I said. It was an accessibility issue, and it is installed on my Steam Deck right now. So
But that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to decide: should I do it more for me, who's probably just going to be playing more Monster Hunter, or should I
Find
do
the
it to
crossover.
get
Find-
Nick to?
find the happy medium. Find the game that
But see,
you
you're already
wanna play
stressed out about playing Beautiful Joe 2 because you haven't
No,
played
I'm
the
not.
first
I'll play
one.
Beautiful Joe. I'll play Beautiful Joe 2, bitch.
Okay.
I'll play it.
But then
there are
again,
very
you also
few
still haven't
things-
played Chrono Trigger, you know?
there are very few. I mean, I'm gonna play Chrono Trigger one way or the other. I installed it for a reason. I'm gonna play that game, whether it's for the
You know
Revival
what?
Club
You know
or
what's
not.
funny is this is part of my final thought. You know what's funny is that someone was listening to a really old top 5, and it was like the top
I
5
know what you're
most
gonna say.
timeless games of like the past decade, like the year 2000 to the year 2010. It was like an old top 5 podcast. It was from 2010, I think. And on that podcast, Nick was like, I'm gonna finally get to Final Fantasy Tactics. I'm gonna play Final Fantasy Tactics by the end of the year. And that was 12 years ago, Nick. So where the fuck is Final Fantasy Tactics? Where's that? Where's
By
those
the end of the
credits,
year,
man?
baby.
You owe them
By the end of the year.
to me. So maybe I should just throw Final Fantasy Tactics on there and force Nick to play that.
I mean, it's
I
still
don't
got to
know.
be voted. But I mean, like you can manipulate a vote however you want, Brad. That's because you're Brad. You can do whatever you want. You'll.
Anyways, hop into Discord and help me brainstorm for my revival club. I'm trying to choose between those two poll ideas.
I love the
Force
Revival Club
Nick or-
because I love the Revival Club because it gets me out of my comfort zone. It gives me opportunity and a reason to play games maybe have been on my backlog forever, and it gives me in a few instances.
Yeah, like
a reason to go
replaying
back
the
and play something.
darkness. Come on,
Dude, I'm
Come
enjoying the
on.
darkness too, man. I'm digging the darkness too right now. And you know what? I may never have gotten around to replaying that game and remembering what that game is all about if it wasn't for the Revival Club.
Fair enough. Anyways, that's it for me.
All right, Nolan.
Yeah, my 4-player minute thing starts now. I'm pretty hyped for Rogue Legacy 2. It's one of those things where, like I had mentioned, the reason I didn't like excitedly pick it up day one was because I had played it in beta or alpha, whichever one, and I just wasn't really feeling it. But then after I saw some content of the 1.0 release, and that got me kind of pumped for it, which is why I ended up picking it up again. So I'm playing that, excited to play more of it. The other one, crap, there was another game I was playing the other day, and I'm trying to remember what it was. I don't remember.
Peglin?
But yeah, no, Peglin's definitely still good. I'm definitely still playing that and enjoying it. I have not beaten it, or sorry, I've only beaten it the one time. But it's one of those things where I know there's still a whole lot more to do in that. It's one of those things where I've talked to some people about some combinations of abilities and stuff like that, and it's because it is roguelite. You so infrequently get the combinations you want, and it can be frustrating when it's like, oh, I just wish if I had just gotten this, it would make things better. But one thing I'm tentatively excited about was in the Nintendo Indie World thing or whatever, they announced a new deck building roguelike game. What was that one called? Like Winter something or
Winter Forge
Fro-
or
yeah, something like that. I
I
can't
think I got
remember.
an email about that today. Let's see.
I might have, yeah, too, as well. Wild Frost.
Yes, I think that's
Yeah, Wild Frost. It seemed kind of interesting. So I'm looking forward to finding out more about that one. It's supposed to come out later this year, but that looks pretty exciting. I've been really into like deck building roguelikes lately.
awesome.
And my fuck you goes to the Nintendo Indie World that says we're gonna have games from all around the world, including blah blah in Australia, which is where Team Cherry is from.
Oh,
They
God.
knew what they were doing. They knew
Yeah.
what they were doing. They're fucking assholes.
Giving you hope, giving you false hope. All right, Krispy.
Well, my 4-player minute thing, my final thought thing, freeform moment thing.
We got it. We get you.
I just want to reiterate that I'm a little disappointed in Trek to Yomi, but I don't think that it is a game without merit. I think if like the kind of I like kind of a slick little homage to old samurai films is something that sounds interesting to you. You might actually find something that you really enjoy in that game.
It's also pretty short, like 4 to 6 hours.
Yeah,
somewhere
it's
in there.
not much of an investment either.
It's a nice little
You might.
aside, a
might.
quick project. if you will.
I'm not terribly impressed with it so far, but I don't want that to be the headline of my opinions. I think that it's doing some cool things. I just kind of wish they were doing them a little differently or a little better.
Cool.
Also super excited about Monster Hunter Sunrise, right? Yeah.
Sunbreak.
Sunbreak, whatever.
Monter Hunter Rise.
Yeah, I'm
Sunbreak.
super excited. More Monster Hunter is cool. I've been getting back into Rise on Steam, and man, what a delightful game! So much fun, and I look forward to hearing Nick and Brad's thoughts about Final Fantasy XIV once they get it up and running on their Steam decks.
Yep, I'll play the shit out of it on my Steam Deck. Oh my god. It's going to be awesome. Chris Davis.
Okay.
your turn.
I've got a mini kind of 4-player minute here. A game I wanted to mention during impressions, but we ran out of time. I have been playing, to kind of even my surprise, over the weekend I played through South Park and the Stick of Truth.
Oh, that's
And
random.
I know it was really weird. I was browsing through eBay and I saw a brand new copy that was physical for evidently last gen that it got a re-release for like $5. So I picked it up, played through it because Nolan said he really enjoyed it, and I've only heard ever good things about it, and it was surprisingly good. I guess I was kind of just in awe of just how authentic it is to the show.
How it feels
Really
like an
that
episode
much
of the show. Yeah.
It's oh my god, it is. I'm not even really that much of a South Park fan, but I was just kind of in awe of just how authentic it was to the visual design and just how true it was to the form. So much so that I enjoyed playing through it, and I have ordered, and in my mailbox right now is a copy of The Fractured But Whole, which I might even start playing tomorrow once I go to the mailbox.
Nice. Wow.
And
Brad
bye,
just,
Brad.
Brad
Thanks
just
for-
left us and ruined our stream setup.
Just ruined the
He
setup.
did at least wait. He waited at least 3 minutes past his deadline.
Damn it, Brad.
You can take the overlay down if it screwed up our screen.
I'm just gonna deal with it because I don't want to deal with that.
Rest in peace, video.
Yeah, and my thank you goes to eBay for having these deals for me. And it ties into my sweat, which is Gotham Knights, because that is a $70 video game that I don't want to pay $70 for. So thank God for eBay, because I ain't doing that shit.
Do you frequently browse eBay? It just seems like, I don't know.
I mean, I don't want to buy a used game from GameStop because I don't want to support GameStop. And I sometimes just don't want to wait for a deal on Amazon or anywhere else. So eBay ends up being usually a very reliable thing for me. So
fair enough. Just
yeah.
curious. Hey, also, to be fair, Gotham Knights is still like 5 or 6 months out. You know.
I mean, at this point, it's just spit and polish and fixing bugs. I don't think they can do the gameplay formula changes necessary.
Sure, but it does seem like it may need some more polish, and I think it's going to get some before it comes out. But I don't know.
I think it needs a whole new coat of paint, but that's just me. But whatever.
Damn,
we'll see in 5 months.
We'll see. You know, I'm gonna play. It's fun. Like, I watched it and I was like, this looks kind of, it looks like it has some issues, but at the same time, I was like, I'm into like the vibe of the whole thing, so I'm gonna go for it. All right, my 4-player minute starts now. 2 things I wanted to quickly mention is that I wasn't expecting this, but now I'm suddenly very excited at the prospect of playing Sifu. I have a couple games that I picked up and ultimately decided are not for me, and I'm going to probably trade them back in. Might use that credit to pick up Sifu at some point. But yeah, I don't know. That game looks pretty rad. And actually, watching the footage that you brought of Sifu was kind of the first like length. I've seen like bits and pieces of it and some clips and whatnot on Twitter and stuff, but I've never like watched just kind of a consistent playthrough of 15, 20 minutes of footage. And I think it looks pretty rad. I hope it's one of those games that's challenging but satisfying. So we'll see. And the other thing I just wanted to mention is that Final Fantasy 16, the more I think about it, the more like, you know what? Maybe it's time. Maybe it is time for Final Fantasy to have the big comeback as a single player game that it deserves.
I mean, it had its
and-
comeback. It's called Strangers of
Shh.
Paradise.
Shut the fuck up. Don't say that. Don't say that. Final Fantasy 16 looks rad. It looks like it has the kind of tone and vibe and atmosphere that I'm into. And I don't know, the fact that they keep talking about it in this way that just makes it sound like they're putting the finishing touches on it. And we have the Summer Game Fest coming up, and I am like, at this point, I'm like 90% certain we're gonna get the big reveal of Final Fantasy 16 via Jeff Keighley at the Summer Game Fest with an announcement for like a October or November release this year. Like I'm like, at this point, I'm willing to bet a hot dog on it. So that's pretty fucking exciting, man. I just hope it's not a huge wet fart like Final Fantasy 15 kind of was. But yeah, that's it. Those are my thoughts, man. That's what I'm excited for. And that, of course, ladies and gentlemen, is our show this week. Thank you once again for tuning in. Again, if you like to check these out live, we record them on Wednesdays right now. We typically do Thursdays, but for the next 2 or 3 months, we're on Wednesday nights. Don't forget. I'm going to update the website because I know on the website it says Thursday everywhere. I'm going to fix that. And if you're interested in supporting us, you can go to patreon.com/4player. Drop us $1 or $2. Help us cover the hosting costs and all that stuff. We appreciate it. And, of course, it doesn't cost you a dime if you want to be a part of the community and just talk about video games. Discord.gg/4player is where to do that. And you can find all of our podcast episodes over at 4playernetwork.com. But that's it. That's our show. Thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next week. Good night.
Night.
Bye.